Our story begins in the Superpower Academy, where our protagonist, Ningfeng, is laughingly playing games on his phone while walking. He was engrossed in an online game when someone launched a palm strike at him, slapping him hard on the face. Wang Yu asks him what he was doing and reminds him that the Awakening exam is about to happen. Instead of preparing, he was playing games. He laughingly asks her if it isn't a combination of work and rest. He then tells her that he is already 18 years old and, at most, he'll awaken into a 1 or 2 star ordinary profession. He then leans towards her and tells her that he is not unlike her, who awakened a 5-star profession at 16, and asks her why he should work so hard if he can just rely on her coattails in the future, making her pissed. She then grabs him by the neck while shouting that she'll let him rely on her. While he was choking, the men notice Wang Yu and think that she must have returned from special training. Also, their province hasn't produced such a genius as Wang Yu in many years. Wang Yu's gap between people is too wide because she is beautiful, wealthy, and talented. Then they notice him trying to take his phone back, making the men wonder who he was. One of them answers that it was Ningfeng, the infamous trash of the school, because he was about to turn 18, but still hasn't awakened. Wang Yu dragged him by the ears while the men, clearly irritated, ask how someone like Goddess Wang Yu, a nice beauty, could hang out with such a person. One of the men replied that he heard they had been childhood friends but wondered how someone like that could match up with a childhood friend like Wang Yu when he was from an orphanage. Blue Star is a world where games and reality merge, and as long as they are over 16, they have the chance to awaken their abilities and become adventurers. Someone then tells the students that the next awakening miracle could be them. Ningfeng was waiting in line, wondering what was up with Wang Yu because she was being so serious again when it was his 3rd time taking the exam, and he was not a rookie. The instructor tells them that the students called to the front should go to the testing area for assessment, and that the students who successfully awaken will receive a set of basic equipment for their profession. They should also prepare for practical testing. The students begin to chat about what they want to get when the instructor calls his name. He walks to the front while the students teasingly ask if he isn't the senior from grade 3. And whisper that he always follows Goddess Wang Yu, thinking he is so powerful, yet he hasn't awakened at 18. He then approached the teacher named Kai Wai, and with a smile, she told him not to be nervous. She ordered him to place his hand on the crystal and relax his mind, which he followed. Once settled, he waited without expecting anything to happen but was shocked when the crystal lit up, leaving everyone stunned and surprised along with him. He thought he must be able to awaken because the crystal reacted to him, and he knew that the blue light represented the magic system. The students began to laugh at him, but he didn't care, knowing that awakening would automatically teach him initial skills. He decided to see how many stars of the profession he could awaken. The crystals then released different colors, and he was shocked to see the system show him that he had awakened a 1-star profession and learned a skill, the mud marsh technique. Kai Wai thought it was a pity for him to get only 1 star, and the students began to laugh at him. They teasingly told him to hurry down because standing there was embarrassing, and that garbage is garbage. Kai Wai asked him what skill he had awakened, and when he didn't answer, Kai Wai called him again, catching his attention, and he looked back at her, confused. She thought he seemed to have suffered a big blow from his looks, and after all that silence, in the end, he was still just 1 star. She then gave him his equipment and ordered him to change into it and move to the next stage. He walked away, wondering if he had really not misheard, and remembered the system telling him that his awakening was complete and he had gained passive abilities, Dark Kinship and Mystery Gift. The system also explained to him that the passive skill, Dark Kinship, means he would not suffer a backlash from dark power and could use forbidden spells without any cost. The passive skill, Mystery Gift, meant he could release forbidden spells once a week without consumption, making him wonder if the dark power was the most evil power in that world and if forbidden spells were the highest level of magic. But then, the system told him that he got the mud marsh technique and it was beginning transformation, making him wonder what transformation meant and what it was. The system just told him that the transformation was complete, so the mud marsh technique transformed into the forbidden curse, Foul Earth Shell, leaving him stunned and confused about what was going on. He thought that darkening and forbidden spells didn't sound good and knew that he still had the practical test, so he hoped nothing would go wrong. Later, the instructor told them that 50 people would enter in groups, each battling monsters in the realm to familiarize themselves with their newly awakened skills. Candidates were not allowed to form teams or attack each other, and unmanned drones would supervise. Kai Wai told everyone to confirm their skills as soon as possible and they shouldn't worry because others wouldn't see them. The system then showed him that his active skill was Foul Earth Shell, a dark forbidden spell that summons dark power from another world to form a protective shield and was also capable of crushing all approaching enemies. He knows that those words sound very dangerous, making him wonder if it was some evil spell. He thinks he'll be in trouble if someone finds out about his skill. The instructor then ordered them to enter the arena, which they all followed, while he was shouting to the system in panic for an explanation. He then enters the portal and comes out in a sunny forest. The students begin to use their new skills to defeat the goblins inside. While the others are busy fighting with the goblins, he is busy hiding in the bush. When a goblin walks near him, he immediately hides. He was busy thinking that the entire exam venue was monitored by drones, so he dared not use those forbidden spells casually. But knowing that he didn't have any other means of attack, he decided to hide and wait for an opportunity, not noticing the drone flying above him. A man who saw him hiding angrily said that everyone else was leveling up by killing and asked what he was doing. Kaiwai called the man Captain Zhu and explained that Ningfeng awakened relatively late and wasn't in good health. Also, the only activated skill he possesses is a defensive spell, not very suitable for solo combat. Captain Zhu tells her to call Ningfeng out because there is no need for him to continue the exam. After all, with just a 1-star profession, he can't become a real adventurer. But then, the monitoring man makes a confused sound, making Captain Zhu look back at the monitor and ask what is going on. The man replies that he doesn't know, but it seems like the drone was attacked and then the feed was cut off. The man then shouts an alert to everyone and reports that unusually high power fluctuations were detected in the realm, making Captain Zhu panic and order his men to investigate in a hurry and find out what is happening. On the other hand, inside the arena, the drone was destroyed into pieces while the man was on the ground, shaking in fear and asking how there could be such powerful monsters in the exam venue while looking at the huge goblin with sharp blades in hand. The goblin orders his brethren to rise and not to be enslaved any longer. He then orders the goblins to let those invaders die there, which the goblins agree to. The drone flew closer to the goblins, but the leader attacked it with his power, making it explode and fall into a nearby bush. Ningfeng, hit in the head, wondered why the drone fell, but then he was shocked to see a swarm of goblins surrounding him. The leader goblin laughingly said that there was actually a little bug there. A few goblins dashed toward him to attack while he wondered why so many monsters were gathering and guessed that the one in the middle seemed to be an elite leader. He then realized that the drone was gone and thinks that this was a great opportunity to test if the forbidden spell was real. He raised his hand and a purple power emanated from him. The goblin leader was shocked to see an undead rising from underground. On the other hand, at the station, a man shouted that all the screens had lost connection and suddenly, a leakage of dark power occurred in the realms, suspected to be from a king level or above monster. Captain Zhu ordered his men to call for reinforcements immediately and evacuate all non-combatants nearby. Kaiwai knew that a king level or above monster was a disaster capable of destroying a city and wondered why such a terrifying presence would be in the exam venue. Back in the arena, the goblin leader was sweating in horror and fear upon seeing his power, but Ningfeng simply released his undead to attack the goblins. He was amazed to see the forbidden spells in action, thinking they were kind of gross and sticky looking, which scared him. As his undead killed the goblins one by one, the system informed him that he had killed a goblin minion, gaining 10 experience and continuously gaining more experience points for every goblin killed. The goblin leader was shocked by the powerful darkness and asked if he was not human and how this was possible. Then, realizing his movements were slowing down, the leader shouted not to come any closer, but the undead just wrapped around it and killed it. The system then informed him that he had killed the goblin vanguard and gained 6,000 experience. A moment later, the system displayed his character information. His occupation was a mage, his level was 10, health was 10, strength was 8, agility was 8, spirit was 20, and his experience was 12. He was amazed to have gained 10 levels in one go, knowing that in previous years' practical tests, participants could only level up by 1 or 2 levels at most. He thought the experience points from the small monsters were all very low, mainly relying on the elite monster from earlier, and wondered how there could be elite monsters appearing in the exam venue. But then, an item lit up in front of him, making him realize it was the loot dropped by the elite monster, and he noticed that both items were of orange quality. He grabbed the Vanguard Mark, a consumable item of orange quality, which gave him a permanent plus 10 agility attribute. Then, there was the Shadow Butcher's Claw, also of orange quality, with a requirement level of 20. It provided plus 13 strength, plus 16 agility, plus 10% attack speed, plus 5% critical hit rate, and a 10% chance to trigger a combo, and it could be inlaid with up to 3 enhancements. He knew that orange quality was already considered epic level treasure, which meant they were definitely very valuable. And although he couldn't use the claw now, orange equipment could still sell for a lot of money. Excited at the thought of easily leveling up by killing monsters and finally getting rich, he was then startled when the captain ordered everyone to immediately abandon the test and used the teleport scroll to evacuate, making him wonder what was happening. Suddenly, he felt a strong power spreading around him, and when he peeked back, he was shocked to see holes in the ground, making him question why it was so desolate there, if it was the power of the forbidden curse, and if they were all traps. He immediately opened his scroll, knowing it would be terrible if someone found out, so he must run away. The other students used their scrolls to leave the arena too. Captain Zhu shouted to everyone not to stay there and to leave immediately to return to the city. Zhu clenched his teeth, thinking that even if everyone present teamed up, they wouldn't be able to resist a king level or above monster, and he didn't know if reinforcements would make it in time. But Zhu was shocked to realize that the source of the dark power suddenly disappeared, fearfully wondering if that demon had escaped outside the realm. When he came out from the arena, he saw Kai Wai telling someone that it was already beyond what they could handle, so she'd report immediately, and everyone had to remain silent to avoid large-scale chaos. She also ordered the activation of the school's ceiling array, leaving only one exit for unrelated personnel to evacuate quickly. He called out to Kai Wai to ask, but she worriedly asked if he was okay. He replied that he was fine, and she ordered him to leave in a hurry, telling him that the school was temporarily suspended, so he shouldn't come back unless necessary. Later, he asks Wang Yu what is going on because it seems like their teacher, Kai Wai, is facing a formidable enemy. She replies that she heard an unknown power source was detected in the exam venue and that the whole school had been sealed off. He wonders if it could be the unidentified elite monster and thinks about how hard it was for him to endure until awakening, only for the test to be interrupted halfway. Wang Yu notices his disappointment and thinks that the incident has hit him hard. She then tells him that defensive spells can save his life, but they are not suitable for leveling alone, and starting tomorrow, he'll team up with them. He thanked her for her kindness but told her that it was not necessary because he can level up on his own. He proudly thinks that it's not that he doesn't want to, but he only knows the dark forbidden spells, so he can't casually use them in front of others, while Wang Yu looks at him, confused. She then shouts to him that no refusal is allowed, and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, at the west gate, she'll be waiting for him. He tried to stop her, but she just walks away, leaving him frustrated and shouting, asking why she won't listen to him. He also shouts that Wang Yu is so autocratic. But he calms down, knowing that it was bad, and wonders if he should fake being sick. He then realizes that it won't work because, with Wang Yu's personality, he can't avoid her indefinitely. He then thinks of a plan and wonders if it'll work. Later, he arrives at Yuan Cheng Exchange, aware that some equipment comes with skills attached. He plans to buy an item with a Meyer spell attached and pretend to use it tomorrow. He walks into the store, hoping that the system won't turn the equipment's skill into a forbidden spell, and thinks about selling the loot from earlier monster fights. A pretty lady asks him how she may assist him, and he replies that he'd like to purchase an item with the Meyer spell attached, whether it's a weapon, clothing, or accessory. She asks him if he is a newly awakened student and tells him that there is no need to specifically buy a low-level spell like the Meyer spell because they have many items with high-level spells attached, more suitable for leveling up. She offers to show him some, but he replies that there is no need for it because he just needs it temporarily, so the equipment level doesn't need to be too high. The lady then calls someone to assist him and walks away, remarking that after all, he was a penniless person and she was not going to bother serving him, so he should let the newcomer handle him, leaving him confused. Then, another lady asks him how she can assist him, and he replies the same. The lady showed him the equipment. He tried the gloves, armor, and a sword that he couldn't lift. But in the end, he settled for a ring. The lady asked him if he was satisfied with that ring, and he replied that it was fine. He then thanked the lady for accompanying him to so many stores and asked where he could sell loot. The lady took him to the appraisal consignment room. The man inside invited them in, and the lady informed the man, Wang, that he wanted to sell loot. He showed the armor, asking if Wang could help them evaluate it and how much it could be sold for. Wang saw that it was an agility-based orange weapon with low-level requirements, boasting excellent attributes, very suitable for newcomers, and it also came with 3 gem slots, allowing for adjustments according to needs to achieve more suitable effects. Wang told him that it was a good item and they should have several clients interested in that equipment. Wang then asked him if he had any specific requirements for its price, and he replied that the higher the price, the better. Wang said he understood and asked him to wait a moment because he would make a phone call to contact the clients. Wang then called Lady Yang to tell her that Ningfeng was her guest, so she should take care of him, which she agreed to. Wang called someone named Zhang to ask if he was still looking to find a fine piece of equipment for his son and mentioned that he happened to have one there, while Yang was pouring him tea on the side. After the call, Wang informs him that the equipment has been sold and the buyer is willing to pay 50,000 crystals. However, after deducting an 8% transaction fee, he will receive 46,000 crystals. This revelation shocks Ningfeng, and Yang stares at him in disbelief too. A moment later, Wang mentions that if he completes the formalities there, they'll transfer the money to his account immediately. Ningfeng replies that it was quick and he was just thinking about buying a few more pieces of equipment. Wang assures him that he'll recommend some shortly, guaranteeing his satisfaction. Outside the room, another lady asks the pretty lady from earlier if she didn't mention that she likes handsome guys the most and questions why she let that young man go. The pretty lady responds that she only likes rich and powerful handsome guys, implying that poor guys are not even worthy of carrying her shoes. Then, seeing him emerge with Wang and Yang, they question the pretty lady about why her client is now with Master Wang. The other lady reveals she heard that the handsome guy sold equipment for 50,000 crystal coins and was now choosing another piece of equipment, leaving them shocked to learn that it was more than 3 months' worth of their salary just in commission. The pretty lady is stunned and exclaims that it should have been her receiving him, so the commission should be hers. After his shopping, Yang tells him to take care and mentions that next time he comes, he should just find her directly. She then introduces herself as Yang Xin. The next day, Ningfeng walks outside proudly with his new equipment, relieved that he tested the equipment last night and the spell it comes with won't be affected by the system, so he doesn't have to worry about exposure. He then happily calls Wang Yu, but then someone tells Wang Yu that they didn't expect to find her there. She sees a group in front of her, comprising a shield warrior, a mage, a great axe berserker, and a cleric. She introduces them to him as members of her guild, and 2 members smile at him, but the other 2 stare at him seriously, making him wonder what was wrong with those 2 because they looked like he owed them 80 million. The shield warrior tells Wang Yu that he remembers she was about to reach her second transformation, prompting her to ask the man what he meant by it. Ningfeng was amazed upon hearing this, knowing that transformations can only be completed once every 30 levels, which made him wonder if Wang Yu was almost level 60. This revelation made it clear why Wang Yu is considered a genius girl with a 5-star rating from the beginning. The man then replies that it was nothing much, he just wanted to give her a gift. He gave her an advanced agility potion that was consumable, of orange quality, and it permanently increased the agility attribute by +3. The berserker man exclaimed that it was an advanced potion that permanently increases attributes. The cleric asked if she was right to assume it was expensive. The man replied that expensive wasn't a big deal because it cost only 20 to 30,000 crystal coins. However, both of them agreed that the key issue was that such high-level potions are hard to come by, even with money. His father had asked many friends for help and finally managed to obtain one. She thanked the man for his kindness but told him he could take the gift back. However, the man disagreed, emphasizing that the potion was very precious. He then asked her if she wasn't determined to get into the top university. She turned around, replying that there was no need for it, and they still had things to do, so they should go first. The man, visibly angry, pointed at Ningfeng and asked Wang Yu if she was really going to waste time on that kind of trash. She angrily called the man Zhao Cheng to warn him, but Cheng teasingly asked her what was wrong and remarked that a 1-star was just trash and they would never amount to anything in their life. Ningfeng wondered why Cheng was suddenly targeting him, who this guy was, if he was sick, and if he should just cast a forbidden spell on him to settle the matter. The cleric lady attempted to persuade Cheng that they should leave, but he insisted she move aside, declaring it was none of her business. He vehemently told her that Ningfeng's entire body couldn't equate to the value of a single attribute potion, and that they should leave to avoid further embarrassment. However, he was calmly confronted by Ningfeng, who questioned if he was acting like a mad dog, biting people indiscriminately, and pointed out it was merely a +3 potion, yet he dared to boast so arrogantly. This made Cheng angrily retort, questioning what he had said and if he was seeking death. The mage then challenged Cheng, asking if he possessed anything more formidable to justify his attitude and why he wouldn't showcase it to them. Cheng, agreeing with his team, told him that as long as he could produce such an item, he would kneel and kowtow to him, but if he failed, he would perform the gesture instead. Upon releasing the item, he instructed Cheng to prepare himself and presented it to Wang Yu as a gift. Surprised, she discovered it was a pioneer badge, an orange item that permanently enhanced attributes. She inquired about the item, having never encountered it before. Cheng, stuttering, questioned how an item could permanently provide a +10 attribute boost and speculated it was a falsehood. However, he confidently suggested they test it to see for themselves. Wang Yu, initially hesitant, accepted the badge on his assurance that he had found it at his home and intended it for her. Her team urged her to utilize the badge immediately, unable to contain their anticipation. Upon using it, she excitedly confirmed the increase in attributes, astonishing the cleric lady. Meanwhile, Cheng and the mage man denied the possibility, accusing Ningfeng of theft. He reminded Cheng to kowtow audibly due to his purported hearing impairment. Cheng, defiant, refused, but when Meng Yu questioned his hesitation, he sought his team's support, only to find them departing. Left with no alternative, Cheng begrudgingly knelt and performed a loud kowtow. After that, he walked away while waving goodbye to everyone, telling them that he would see them later. Once they were far away, Wang Yu apologized to him, but he told her to stop, indicating that their relationship did not allow for apologies. Smiling, he told her that she really didn't need to accompany him because he preferred her to complete the second transformation and get into the best university. He also mentioned knowing that he couldn't level up with her around. She worriedly told him not to give up on himself, and he replied that he wasn't giving up. She then gave him something, which he saw were skill books. She explained that he could learn them once he reached the appropriate level. Noticing that they were all of purple quality, he asked if they were expensive. She replied that they cost not much money and were incomparable to the badge he had given her, so he told her he would accept them. Later, in a dangerous graveyard on the periphery of the secret realm, the undead lunged at them. Then, an arrow flew, hitting an undead in the head. He shouted that it was 666 and silently thought that the experience gain there was so low, but he couldn't tell Wang Yu that he had already reached level 10, making him wonder what he could do when he felt helpless too. But then, Wang Yu's phone rang, and she answered it. The cleric lady informed her that they had just received news that the big boss, the fallen necromancer, was about to appear, and such an opportunity was quite rare. The lady then asked her if she wanted to pursue it. She asks her if she was coming. Cheng interrupted them by asking, "How else are we going to fight the boss if Wang Yu won't come?" Tell her that the fallen law necromancer can drop rare mage items, which are very important to him. Wang Yu was silent upon hearing this and looked at him, who was telling her to go because it was okay. They were both in that secret realm anyway, so he could level up later. She agreed and told him to go to the safe zone and wait for her, which he excitedly agreed to. She then jumped and flew away while he was shouting to her to take care and come play often when she had time, making her shout back at him to shut up. When she was gone, he smiled, thinking that he was finally alone, and proudly said that the big boss was there today. He was glad that he had prepared early yesterday and learned 2 more skills since they could all be used for free once. The more forbidden spells, the better. The system then showed him the passive skill, Arcane Gift, that allows all his forbidden spells to be cast once a week without consumption. He stretched his arms disappointedly, thinking that he only has 3 skill slots at his current level, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to use the skill book Wang Yu provided for him until he reached level 15. He then looked at his 3 active skills and 2 passive skills. Meanwhile, in a perilous tomb, one of the men in the other team told his members that the big boss had appeared in the depths of the secret realm's high tower, and they needed to fight their way there from here. They should be careful because that dungeon is very difficult and the monsters inside are very dangerous. However, they were all shocked when a flaming power dashed past them. The lady told her team that there was already an adventurer team ahead, making the man stutteringly wonder how they were so far ahead. But the other men noticed that it was Wang Yu and Cheng from the Lion Guild, and told his team that even if they were put on a national scale, they were still extremely powerful newcomers. The other man agreed and told them that others didn't stand a chance while looking at the Lion Guild excitedly and easily killing monsters in the front. The cleric asked the Berserker man if he felt that Wang Yu had become even stronger, to which the Berserker man agreed and responded that, after all, Wang Yu's agility had increased by 10 points. Meanwhile, in the secret realm, within a perilous tomb deep, a forbidden black hole appeared, and he came out from it while excitedly saying that the forbidden spell of spatial magic, indeed fast, is called Void Step. It's a dark forbidden spell that tears through space into the dark world, swiftly traverses to the target location, and can last for 1 hour. A moment later, an eye hole appeared on the ground, and the boss of the perilous tomb deep came out from it, but he just calmly told it that it was late. It immediately launched a powerful attack at him, causing a loud explosion and leaving nothing but dust in his previous position. It furiously called him an arrogant adventurer and demanded to know how he dared to appear alone, thinking he had vanished. But then, he reappeared behind it using his spatial magic, replying that he didn't want to share the spoils with anyone else. He then activated his Meteor Rain skill, a dark forbidden spell that summoned a fierce rain of fire from the sky, causing massive area damage. The boss was shocked to see stones raining fire above it, striking every monster in the tower and causing a huge explosion. He immediately used his spatial magic to evacuate from the rain and saw the system showing him that he had killed a corpse demon, moon demon, erosion ghost, dark feast ghost, armor warrior, and true armor warrior, gaining 12 experience points in total, 200 for each of them. The system then showed him that he had killed a fallen law necromancer, making him gain 50,000 experience points and reach level 30. He walked to the dropped items, knowing the spoils were abundant and that he could use the pendant and gemstones. Unfortunately, the 2 skill books were not exclusive to mages, still, they were worth a lot of money. He decided to absorb the necromancer emblem, thinking that even if it reduced stamina, he could accept it. After absorbing the necromancer emblem, the system showed him that during transformation, he could unlock the hidden occupation, undead wizard, or activate the prerequisite tasks for the hidden occupation of all elemental mage. He smiled, knowing that hidden occupations are quite rare and innate, so there was no way to intervene, making him wonder if those emblems could be the key to activating hidden occupations. He then decided on his choice and shouted that they should not talk anymore because a real man should become an all-elemental mage. Meanwhile, his meteor rain spread to the perilous tomb where Wang Yu and her team were fighting. The berserker, panicking, asked what was wrong and shouted that it was a terrifying magic fluctuation. Wang Yu ordered everyone to stop advancing and retreat, but Cheng disagreed, wanting to kill the necromancer, which made her shout at him, asking if he wanted to endanger everyone when the situation was already so dangerous. Cheng clenched his teeth, thinking it was such bad luck. After retreating, she immediately grabbed her phone to inform Ningfeng. But she read that Ningfeng had messaged her that he had urgent matters and would leave first. Later, he arrived at the transformation hall and walked inside, noticing that not many people were there. He then saw the lady on the side, and the lady asked him if he was there to receive the transformation task, to which he replied, yes. The lady agreed and told him to let her register his information first. She then began to question him about his information, and he answered them. The lady couldn't believe he was undergoing transformation at 18 and noticed that his aptitude was a bit poor. She then stood up and told him to follow her to the mage transformation, which he agreed to. When they arrived at the mage transformation, the lady told him to just follow the process next, and then she would go out first, for which he thanked her. When the lady was out of the room, she saw someone and asked Captain Zhu if there was anything wrong. Zhu replied that they had just gone to investigate on site and the perilous tomb had suffered severe damage. Moreover, the source of power was not yet clear, but the estimated threat level might reach a king or higher. The lady asked Zhu if there had been 2 king-level threats in just 2 days, and Zhu confirmed it. He then told her that he was sent by the higher-ups, requesting Solitary Shadow to take action. On the other hand, in the transformation room, the system showed Ningfeng that his first transfer mission was to become a Lick Wizard, with conditions to enter the realm of illusion, Wumangui Tomb, and obtain the mission item, the Blood Soul Crown. The time limit is 3 days, and the difficulty is a level. The other option is the All-System Mage God, which is the first transfer mission prequel, with conditions to enter the realm of illusions, Huyang Divine Temple, and obtain the mission item, the Holy Emblem. The time limit is 3 days, and the difficulty is S level. He chooses the All-System Mage God, thinking that it is just a prequel mission. The system asks him to verify the relevant information again. After his mission is settled, he comes out of the room, thinking that it is truly worthy of a hidden profession. Even an S-level mission has appeared. He was glad that they gave him 3 days, so it was not too stressful for him. Another lady smiled and said goodbye to him, and he smiled and waved goodbye, but he noticed that it was not the lady from earlier. Meanwhile, in the perilous tomb, a man excitedly tells Zhu that it is the first time he has seen a member of Solitary Shadow, and that their outfit is different. However, Zhu tells the man to be quiet and responds that, after all, the existence of that organization is an official secret. Zhu explained that it is said that members of Solitary Shadow all possess rare hidden professions that allow them to use the power of darkness in combat, specializing in executing special missions. The lady touched her head in pain and told everyone that it was such a powerful power of darkness that, even though it had dissipated a lot, it still affected her. She tells you that she didn't find any clues and it seems that the culprit disappeared after causing the damage, making it impossible to decide their purpose. Zhu tells her that recently, he has received reports frequently that some secret realms have shown unusual signs, which may be a prelude to some kind of crisis, and asks if there is any connection between them. She replied that it was hard to say and that she would consult with superiors and increase manpower. Zhu couldn't believe that even the famous Solitary Shadow, Quang Lan, found it troublesome. The man asks Quang Lan if the culprit is confined to a monster and if it could be others, but she asks the man back if he means if the culprit is a mutant like her, making the man apologize to her and explain that he didn't mean anything else. She calmly replies that the threat level there has exceeded the king level, and to control such a huge power of darkness, the cost is not something that the human body can bear. The man asks if it means there is an exceptionally powerful monster hidden in the city which could bring about a catastrophe at any time, to which she agrees and replies that it is likely hiding in the dark and must be found as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the monster they were talking about was in his home, finding comfort in the dim environment. He sat on his bed, thinking that after reaching level 30, 4 more skill slots had been added. He decided to start by learning 2 books Wang Yu had given him. He then told the system that he wanted to learn a passive skill, Foul Earth Defense, and clicked on it. The system showed him that the passive skill, Foul Earth Defense, automatically takes effect when attacked, with damage 100% absorbed by the Foul Earth Shell, up to the limit of damage the Foul Earth Shell can inflict. Also, once the attack stops, the foul earth shell will gradually repair itself. He figured out that forbidden curses could also merge with lower level spells to generate new effects, and with this, he had another means of defense, making ordinary damage completely ineffective against him. He then opened the other book, and the system showed him that the detected skill, Falling Rock Technique, could merge with the Forbidden Curse's Foul Earth Shell and Meteor Fire Rain, and had been executed automatically. He then learned the passive skill, Elemental Mastery, Earth, and the system showed him that it could enhance all Earth-based spell effects by 20%. After reviewing his books and skills, he noticed that the skill slot count was still 4, so he decided to exchange and buy a few new books. Later, in the exchange tower, he walked inside, and the lady from before saw him, thinking it was the same as last time. She jumped in front of him sweetly, telling him she was there, but he simply told her that he was looking for Yang Xin. She flirtatiously responded that Yang Xin was with another client at the moment, so today she would accompany him. However, he just walked past her, telling her it wasn't necessary and he would just look around himself, leaving the lady frustrated and wondering if he was rejecting her like that and if she was not even comparable to someone like Yang Xin. She then followed him, telling him it was okay because it was her duty. Suddenly, Yang Xin ran to him and called out his name. He asked her if she was done, and she replied that she was not done yet, she was just eating in the back. But her colleague had told her he was there, so she hurried over. He apologized to her for interrupting her meal and offered to treat her later as compensation, making her reply that it was embarrassing. Meanwhile, the lady in the background was infuriated, thinking he was deliberately provoking her anger. A moment later, he pointed to the books and told Wang that he wanted to consign those 2 skill books for sale and also wanted to buy some more mage skill books. Wang replied that it was no problem and ordered Yang to accompany him, which she agreed to. Wang remembered that last time he sold an orange weapon, but this time it was purple skill books, making Wang interested in his background and deciding to send someone to find out more about him. Later, he and Yang were chatting in the restaurant. When they finished, he called the waiter for the bill, but Yang told him there was no need for it because she had already paid. Shocked, he asked her if they hadn't agreed that he would treat her, to which she replied that she had a reason to treat him and he shouldn't worry about it. He asked her what the reason was, but she playfully replied that it was a secret and they should go. When they were outside, he offered to walk her out, but she said there was no need to trouble himself because she was heading to another place and would just take a taxi. He agreed and told her to take care. When she entered the car, the driver asked her where they were going, and she replied to the city's second hospital. She smiled, thinking that thanks to Ning Feng, she earned a lot of commission and her father's medical expenses for that month were finally settled. As she was in tears of happiness, the car window shattered and something pierced the driver. She was horrified to see it. Outside their car, there was portal above and a lot of monsters was coming out from it, causing chaos in the street. She immediately grabbed the car door handle and jumped out of the car. Thrown to the ground, she wondered what was going on and why monsters were appearing in the safe zone. Then, a monster appeared in front of her. Stunned, she saw a man coming out of the portal, who then smiled at her. She then attacked the monster with her power, but the monster didn't sustain even a scratch and simply screamed in anger. Yang Xin was a mage with a 1-star attribute and was at level 34, but she noticed that her attack was futile. The monster then swung its claw to attack her, making her shout in fear. Fortunately, Captain Zhu appeared in time and decapitated the monster. He asked her if she was okay, and she replied that she was. He then told her that if she could move, she should find a place to hide first. She ran away, while Zhu noticed that everything around there had been corrupted and the secret realm had begun to merge with reality. He had never seen such a serious situation before. He then looked at the monster he had just killed and noticed that these monsters were not something a 1-star ordinary person could handle, making him remember his colleague's words that an exceptionally powerful monster hidden in the city could bring about a catastrophe at any time. Suddenly, sharp fingers reached for him, but fortunately, he jumped away in time to dodge them. He asked the person who attacked him if he was a mutant, and the man replied that he was not that kind of trash because he was the guardian of the power of darkness. This made Zhu wonder what the man meant by a guardian, as he had never heard of it before, but he decided to set his curiosity aside, knowing that it was not the time to dwell on such things. He then swung his sword at the man, but the man merely punched his sword, throwing him away. He realized that his situation was not good because the man was at least at the level of a 3rd transfer or higher. The man then put his finger on the ground, releasing his power and laughingly said that it was his territory. He then released a dark power around them, telling Zhu that a weakling like him was no match for him, and jumped at him to attack, thinking that no one was a match for him. The man pierced his sharp claws into him, and the force threw him away. The man laughingly shouted that he had really become stronger and that he felt a constant surge of power by stepping on that land. Suddenly, the man's skull pendant called the man a lowly human and told him not to indulge himself, making the man apologize. Someone in the crack in the sky reminded the man that his power was granted by him and that without him, he would be nothing more than a crawling creature in the dirt like his kind. An eye then appeared in the crack, and demons slowly came out of it. The demon ordered the man, who was kneeling on the ground and shaking in fear, to prove to him that he still had value and he should use the people in the city as sacrifices for his dominion over that world, which the man respectfully agreed to. Meanwhile, someone swung the curtain aside, and it was Ningfeng who emerged from a public restroom. He was shocked to see dead bodies outside and a monster, making him wonder what was going on and what had happened, since he had just come back to use the toilet. The monster then looked back at him and dashed to attack, but the ground in front of him cracked, and he simply attacked the monster with his earth spike wall. He was glad that he had spent a lot of money to buy that weapon today, which came with a purple skill and just happened to complement his death magic bonus. He then came out of the building and was shocked to see that the street was corrupted. He then saw someone dragging a dead body, and the man threw the dead body aside when he saw Ningfeng, annoyed that there were still some overlooked insects. The man then jumped and launched his sharp claws at him, taking Ningfeng by surprise. The man successfully grabbed him, but was shocked to see Ningfeng releasing a shield, making his powerful arm shake. The man stutteringly asked how Ningfeng could block his attack, and the demon told the man that it was indeed a power of darkness. The demon also told the man that Ningfeng's power far exceeded his, but then corrected himself, stating that he sensed a more terrifying aura than death from Ningfeng. With his eyes closed, Ningfeng thought the man seemed very strong and wondered if the man could be planning to cast a forbidden curse on the city. He then opened his eyes and shattered the man's sharp crystal arm, leaving the man in disbelief and shouting for his leader demon. However, the demon simply told the man that the user he was trying to reach was out of service, so he should deal with it himself. The demons then flew up to the sky and rushed back to the crack, with the leader demon telling the demons to hurry back because they were closing. Eventually, the crack closed, and the man who was left asked what was happening and how his power disappeared. Ningfeng just smiled at the man. The so-called mutants are those who, during the awakening process, gain the hidden profession of darkness. They can wield the power of darkness, which makes them stronger than ordinary professions of the same level. However, once they lose the protection of the power of darkness, they become vulnerable. The man screams as his body pierced with an earth spike, killing him instantly. Ningfeng knows that the man could be quite troublesome but is relieved that he can focus on offense without worrying about defense. He then decides to quickly pick up the spoils on the ground and hurry home before anyone notices him. A moment later, in the destroyed city, Quang Lan and a lady appear. The lady informs Quang Lan that the monster has retreated and the invasion from the realm has ceased. She notices that two destructive spells, one being the intrusion of the realm into reality, both appear and disappear suddenly, leaving her puzzled about their enemy's intentions. She then inquires about the situation elsewhere, and the lady responds that it's basically safe, except for the heavy losses suffered by the team in the south of the city, with the current situation unknown. Remembering that the south of the city is where Zhu is in charge, she suggests that they should go there to investigate. Meanwhile, someone is looking at the man who was pierced and killed. Duan wonders if all the man's belongings have been taken. Suddenly, Quang Lan appears and orders Duan not to move. She then questions his identity. Duan shows his badge, indicating he is a member of the Cloud Realm, and assures her not to be nervous. She recognizes the badge and acknowledges that he belongs to the unofficial organization composed entirely of fighters, which he confirms. She mentions that she's heard they always act in secrecy and asks why he was there. Duan explains that the dead man was originally a member of their group but betrayed the organization and assisted the realm in invading reality, leading to a monster assault on their camp and resulting in many casualties except for a few survivors. The lady questions if this incident is similar to the recent events and wonders if the realm invasion stopped because the man died. Duan counters with a question about whether they killed the man. She responds that they didn't and are unaware of who did. Duan mentions that the man liked to hide in realm space, highlighting his cunning nature and his own failed attempts to find him. Reflecting on the situation, Quang Lan realizes that despite Zhu's strength, the entire army was wiped out, suggesting that directly killing the enemy stopped the realm invasion. This revelation leads Quang Lan and Duan to speculate whether there exists such a formidable figure in Kinyu City. Duan then walks away, prompting her to ask where he is going, to which he replies that he is off to find something. Meanwhile, in Ningfeng's home, he was shouting with happiness upon discovering that the man's drop actually included 2 pieces of orange set equipment for the fighter profession. They are Eternal Glory, a top set accessory of orange quality with a level requirement of 120, and then Eternal Glory Pants, another set accessory of orange quality, also requiring level 120. However, he remembered that the man wasn't wearing them, leading him to guess that it was probably because the man's level wasn't high enough. He knew that if the man had worn them, he would have had to use forbidden techniques to defeat the man. He then stares at the man's pendant, noting its strange appearance, lack of quality, and unknown information. Flicking the pendant, he hoped there was no ancient god hidden inside of it. The pendant didn't move, but using the pendant, the demon was watching him. The demon, glad that he reacted quickly and closed the realm, hoped he hadn't been discovered. When Ningfeng stared at the pendant and expressed his hope that no ancient god was hidden inside, the demon jumped in shock and panically ordered his demons to cut off all their contacts and not to expose their location hastily, which the monsters quickly followed. The demon sighed with relief, thinking it was close and admitting it scared him to death. He also wondered how Ningfeng sensed him. The next day, in the city hospital, Zhu lay on the hospital bed, covered in bandages, and told Quang Lan that it was the young fighter who had saved them. He recounted how, as soon as the enemy saw the young fighter, they immediately opened a rift in the realm and escaped. She agreed, telling Zhu that she could vaguely feel that Duan's strength was comparable to hers. The man pondered whether the man, who had evaded capture by even the strongest, had actually been taken down by a mysterious figure. She speculated that it seemed to be the case for now. She then mused that perhaps the mysterious man was just passing by. Or maybe he was in seclusion. In any case, this mysterious figure definitely wasn't registered anywhere, and aside from some traces of ordinary magic, there were no special findings on the battlefield. Zhu expressed relief at the thought of the mysterious figure living among them, feeling very safe at the prospect. The man then shared his exaggerated idea, wondering if remnants of dark power remained on the battlefield from the previous night. She confirmed his suspicions, explaining that their enemies were monsters from another realm. The man admitted his confusion, merely guessing about the situation, and speculated whether the mysterious figure could also be a mutant. He noted that the two devastating spells hadn't caused any casualties and pondered if the mysterious figure could be a mutant. Zhu dismissed the thought as impossible and an overreach, but Quang Lan took the suggestion seriously. Meanwhile, at the border, Ningfeng announced his intention to undertake the job change task and inquired whether he could pass through. The men allowed him to pass, and he saw the Temple of Radiance. As he started walking toward the temple, he was unaware that someone was following him. It was Duan, trying to investigate him. A few days ago, at the exchange, the lady informed Wang that Duan had come to see him. Wang greeted Duan and told him that he had heard Duan wanted to buy a set of 4 transferred fighters' suits. The lady thought to herself that with such a high-level and handsome man as Duan, who was generous with his money, they wouldn't have to worry in the future if they could get Duan on board. Wang then mentioned to Duan that, coincidentally, they had an old customer who had just called and was ready to sell a 4 transfer fighters' suit. But this old customer only had 2 pieces at the moment, a top and a pair of pants. Duan inquired about the whereabouts of this old customer, to which Wang replied that the customer had some engagements today and couldn't make it. However, Duan noted that the details about the 4 transfers, 2 pieces, a top, and pants all matched key information about his master's relic. Although it hadn't been confirmed firsthand, the suit mentioned was most likely his master's. Duan asked Wang if he could tell him where his old customer was and said he could pay for the information, which surprised Wang. Wang wondered about the coincidence, remembering that just as Ningfeng said he was going to sell the suit, Duan showed up asking about it, as if it had been planned. Wang then recalled that his old customer had mentioned going to a neighboring city for some business and suggested he should call to confirm. Later, Wang inquired if Duan had already left, and the lady confirmed she had seen him off. She then asked if something was wrong, and Wang shared that he had someone investigate Ningfeng's background previously. It was discovered that Ningfeng's parents, both ordinary 2-star professionals, had disappeared in an accident when Ningfeng was young, leaving Ningfeng alone. Ningfeng had attended the 7th middle school in the city and awakened at 18. But he was only a 1-star professional. Upon hearing this, the lady was surprised and told Wang that she thought Ningfeng was impressive, but it turns out that Ningfeng was so unremarkable. She mused that she had always thought there was something off about Ningfeng, looking so poor, but now it was exposed. She then questioned where Ningfeng had acquired the items he sold at their trading post, given that a 1-star professional couldn't obtain such valuable items. Wang replied that this was the problem, and although Ningfeng was friends with the daughter of the Wang family group, the Wang family group hadn't helped him much. The lady noted that Duan seemed very unhappy earlier, and asked Wang if Ningfeng's suit could have been stolen. Wang responded that it might not have been stolen, but it was probably not obtained through legitimate means, and this time, Ningfeng seems to have provoked someone he shouldn't have. The lady excitedly replied that a 4 transfer expert is a top figure even in Beishan province, and concluded that Ningfeng's items must have been stolen, which piqued her interest in Ningfeng. Back at the Temple of Radiance, Duan was hiding behind a rock, silently following Ningfeng. He couldn't believe that such a young person could repel the invasion of the realm, especially considering that even a strong person like his master was defeated by the realm's boss. Duan then jumped behind another rock to continue his surveillance, pondering that according to the information he had, his master's relic might be in Ningfeng's possession. If Ningfeng wasn't the formidable one, then it must be someone supporting Ningfeng from behind. However, Duan understood the importance of caution, which is why he chose to remain hidden. Upon arriving at the Temple of Radiance's entrance, Ningfeng observed adventurers battling monsters. Duan noticed Ningfeng changing his outfit and believed that by assessing Ningfeng's equipment, he could roughly gauge Ningfeng's strength. After completing his outfit change, Ningfeng appeared exceedingly ordinary, resembling a student who hadn't yet graduated. This left Duan wondering if it was some kind of disguise. He convinced himself that it must indeed be a disguise because given Ningfeng's age, a novice disguise wouldn't attract attention and would allow him to blend into the crowd easily. Duan thought that if Ningfeng was intentionally hiding his whereabouts, he might lose his trail. To avoid raising suspicion, he decided not to follow too closely. Duan then marked Ningfeng with his skill to be safe, activating his spiritual sensing which marks the target in his consciousness without alerting Ningfeng. As he followed Ningfeng into the temple, Duan observed the monsters in the realm were at very high level, leading him to wonder about Ningfeng's purpose there. Suddenly, Ningfeng seemed to sense something approaching and swiftly shielded himself from an attacking monster. Duan was shocked, realizing that Ningfeng had deployed an absolute defense that couldn't be breached, no matter the attack. Duan then noticed the monsters were avoiding Ningfeng, affirming his suspicion that Ningfeng was no ordinary individual. When Ningfeng halted, Duan wondered if the towering figure before them was the final boss and if Ningfeng would engage in a one-on-one battle. He silently exclaimed at the convenience of having no one else around. Observing the boss, Duan was puzzled by why someone as strong as Ningfeng would battle such a low-level boss. It was strange, especially since the statue didn't move at all. Ningfeng surveyed the area, noting the mission guide made no mention of the huge statue, which was trembling with fear, trying hard to remain still. He entered the room and loudly declared that it should be there. Then, he observed a colossal statue, an angel, floating in the sky. The faceless boss revealed its glowing eyes and flew away, leaving Ningfeng astonished. He looked up, questioning why it fled, while Duan, hidden behind him, wondered in shock if it could be a rare hidden boss and how Ningfeng had come to know about it. The system informed Ningfeng that his mission was the all-series Mage First Turn mission. The prerequisites were to enter the Realm of Glory Temple, obtain the mission item, the Holy Emblem, and defeat the temple's hidden boss, the Six-Winged Angel. Ningfeng smiled as he approached the angel, satisfied that it was truly an S-rank mission, and pondered who could handle it if it were an average first turn. The angel, proclaiming its fear, shouted that it was too scary and questioned where else it could flee within its own realm. As it hurriedly tried to fly away, a formidable thunderstorm gathered above the temple. Despite its fear, the angel didn't hesitate to ascend, attempting to escape Ningfeng's presence. Ningfeng raised his open palm upwards, activating his Thunderfall descent skill, which could summon a massive thunderstorm, calling down the power of the heavens. A huge eye materialized in the sky, unleashing a powerful thunderbolt that struck the fleeing angel, causing it to slowly disintegrate into ashes. The thunder also turned the temple into ash, and Duan was on the ground, fearing what he had witnessed. Duan couldn't believe it because he had never seen that kind of world-destroying magic before. Duan knew that the strength of Ningfeng was definitely above his master's, making him wonder if Ningfeng could be the rumored 8-turn powerhouse. On the other hand, Ningfeng sighed, thinking that before completing the first turn, his level couldn't increase any further. He noticed that he had accumulated many experience points, which were simply a waste to him. However, he decided to forget about it because, with the emblem in his hand, he would go back and complete the mission. The emblem was the Holy Emblem, consumable, of orange quality, and it could permanently increase spiritual attributes by 8 and the recovery effect by 100%. He then took out his teleport scroll to go back, but Duan rushed to him and called him Big Shot to tell him to wait a moment. He was stunned in horror upon hearing Duan and wondered when Duan had come and if he had seen it. Duan noticed that Ningfeng's expression looked very unhappy, so Duan told him not to be angry and that he could explain. Then they heard a loud noise, and Ningfeng noticed that it was the alarm. So, he told Duan that they should leave there first, and they could talk outside, to which Duan replied that he got it. When they were out of the Temple of Radiance and settled in a quiet place, Ningfeng asked Duan if he meant he had been following him all that way. Duan apologized to him and explained that he didn't mean anything else because he just wanted to confirm. After all, Ningfeng looked very young, and if Duan hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. Duan then told him that even though his master, as strong as he was, had paid with his life back then, his master could only temporarily seal the invading realm and let that traitor escape. Over the years, that traitor had been using humans as sacrificial offerings, trying to break the seal, and Duan had been chasing that man for a long time. but without success. Ningfeng knew that Duan was a 4th turn powerhouse and thought that if Duan hadn't revealed himself, he wouldn't have noticed at all. But he knew that in the end, it was because his level was too low, and at that rate, exposure was just a matter of time. Duan was in horror when he noticed that Ningfeng suddenly fell silent and wondered if Ningfeng could be planning to silence him to cover his tracks. Duan then told him that he really appreciated him avenging his master, so if he ever needed anything in the future, he should let him know. Ningfeng knew that Duan's level was not low and Duan was a lone wolf, so if he could establish a good relationship with Duan, he guessed it would be useful. He then told Duan that he didn't want anyone else besides him to know about today's matter, and Duan confidently replied that he could rest assured that he would keep that secret. Duan knows that Ningfeng's magic carries a strong dark power, but it does not harm the innocent. Moreover, Ningfeng repelled the realm invasion and saved the entire city. So, no matter the reason, Duan knows that Ningfeng deserves his respect. They then walk to leave, with Duan looking at Ningfeng and deciding to settle down in Kinyu City since he has nowhere else to go. Suddenly, his phone rang, and when he answered it, it was his teacher, Kai Wai. Kai Wai asked him where he was and if he needed anything because she was out of town and getting ready to come back. She also tells him that there is something she'd like to ask him about and they can talk when she gets back. He agreed and ended the call, wondering why Kai Wai suddenly called him. Meanwhile, in some rooms, Quang Lan asks Kai Wai how it went, and Kai Wai replies that from the tone of the conversation, it doesn't seem like there is anything wrong and Ningfeng is already preparing to come back. Quang Lan tells her that Ningfeng, a student who just awakened a few days ago, suddenly reached the level of the 1st turn, and if it wasn't for the timely investigation, it might have been overlooked. She tells Quang Lan that Ningfeng has a good character and studies diligently, so she believes Ningfeng is not a bad person. Quang Lan tells her that she didn't say Ningfeng was a bad person, but some things need to be clarified. Later, in the meeting room, a man tells everyone that the preliminary situation is as it is, and they will continue to follow up, but they also hope to attract the attention of the superiors. An old man asks if there is anything else, which Quang Lan nods to and asks everyone if it is possible that the 2 destructive spells in Kinyu City were caused by mutants. The 3 men become silent for a moment, and the old man asks her how she could ask such a question if she is a mutant herself. The old man explained to her that mutants use dark power and the brain needs to bear corresponding costs. The more powerful the mutant, the greater the costs they bear, making them consume their life, lose sanity, and even turn into new monsters themselves. The old man also tells her that even the most ordinary costs, if one is not careful, can lead a mutant to an irrecoverable end, and a mutant is equivalent to a king-level threat that simply cannot exist. The man called her his old classmate and told her that she was getting more and more confused. He also told her that he admired her imagination regarding the king-level mutant and that if she liked making up stories so much, she might as well become a screenwriter. However, she responded that she was just considering all possibilities, so whether he listens or not was up to him. The man, clearly annoyed, told her that she was still trying to argue and that they were just incompetent and couldn't find out anything. Laughingly, the man then told her that if there really was a king-level mutant, he'd cut his head off and let her use it as a ball to kick. The old man cleared his throat to stop them and told her that they had already sent an investigation team to Kinyu City. He hoped she could cooperate actively and, in necessary circumstances, the investigation team would take over all her work. The old man also told her that her request for Lonely Shadow to increase manpower had not been approved. She angrily asked the old man if it was a lack of trust in her, but the old man replied that it was not a lack of trust and begged her to bear with them a little longer. After the meeting, she stretched her hand to relax a little, but then a lady barged into the meeting room in a rush and reported to her that the Realm Temple of Radiance in Longbow City had been attacked by destructive magic, but there were no casualties for the time being. Kai Wai, panicky, tells them that when Ningfeng was registering his training location during the investigation, it was. But Quang Lan cut her off by telling her that it was right that he registered in the Temple of Radiance. Quang Lan then smiled and said that the situation was getting interesting. Meanwhile, Longbow City was enveloped by a barrier, leaving everyone inside wondering what exactly happened over at the Radiant Sun Temple. A man assured everyone not to worry because the barriers had been raised to the highest level, which would isolate the dark forces from the outside and not affect the downtown area, making everyone believe that it should be safe. He was frustrated that the commotion they caused earlier had triggered the highest alert directly, and they'd just have to wait for the alert to be lifted before taking the car back home. But then, a crack appeared in the sky inside the barrier, and a monster peeked out from it, slowly emerging. The huge monster noticed a magic barrier in front of them and questioned why it was being opened, but decided to dismiss it, thinking humans are so fragile for always hiding behind their turtle shells. A swarm of monsters then came out of the crack, with the leader teasingly saying that it was too bad for the humans because those things couldn't stop them anymore. The monster leader then pointed to the barrier and ordered his monster minions to attack. The barrier allowed the minions a way to fly through, leaving everyone confused. The man who had been reassuring the people looked up, wondering what those creatures were, and they were all shocked to realize that they were monsters. A guard, panicked, asked why monsters were breaking through the barrier, but the man noticed that the barrier wasn't damaged, making them wonder how the monsters got in. The people pushed back in fear, but Doon calmly created a shield to protect himself and others. Doon called him boss to suggest that this might be another high-intensity realm invasion. He asked Doon if he was right that it was similar to what happened in Kingu City the previous night, but Doon asked him back if they should intervene. He asked Doon if he had a solution, and when Doon was about to respond, he stopped, knowing that he could easily handle it, and wondered why he was asking him for a solution. Then, Doon thought there was no way he was actually asking what he was thinking. He was clearly testing him. Doon then stretched his neck while telling him that he understands and he should leave it to him, leaving him confused. But he realized that there were so many people around, and it was not convenient for him to intervene, so he thought he should let Doon handle it and replied, "Okay." The leader monster landed on the ground, shocking everyone. The monster teasingly laughed as one of the guards released his arrows while shouting that the leader monster was dead. However, the leader monster easily blocked them with his sword. Another guard appeared behind the leader monster to attack. But with a swift backswing of his sword, the leader monster instantly killed the guard. In horror, the guard questioned how it was possible, shouting that they couldn't even touch him. The leader monster, piercing his sword into the ground and dragging it as he walked, expressed disappointment, thinking there would be some strong humans to challenge him. The people ran away upon noticing the monster heading their way. The leader demon raised his sword, aiming it down at the people while deeming them all rubbish. Then, suddenly, someone blocked his sword, and the leader monster was shocked to see it was just one person holding a dagger. Initially confused, Doon told him that although his boss didn't really need his protection, since he was there, he couldn't let his boss get personally involved. He then calls Ningfeng boss again, saying that he'd take care of it, prompting Ningfeng to ask Doon if he could stop calling him boss because it felt a bit embarrassing. The leader monster laughed, conceding that not all humans were worthless after all, but Doon pushing the leader monster's sword, sending the leader monster away, slightly damaging him. Before the monster could regain his composure, he was shocked to find Doon in front of him with daggers. Doon then easily slashed the leader monster into pieces within seconds, leaving the onlookers in disbelief. They questioned the level of Doon's strength as the monster stood no chance, and exclaimed that Doon possessed considerable skills, likely indicative of a high-star hidden class. Doon walked back to Ningfeng while the leader monster exploded into pieces behind him. Doon, a level 137 legendary martial artist, represents a 5-star hidden class. Ningfeng, incredibly amazed by Doon's combat prowess, calmly informed Doon that there was something else there. The monsters rushed back to the portal, realizing that their leader was killed, and the archers began to strike back, now confident they could handle the smaller monsters. Doon asked him if he needed to do anything else, but he just gave Doon a thumbs up and told him that he had done great. The people couldn't believe that a formidable fighter like Doon showed such respect to a young man, making them wonder how powerful the young man was and if he could be the son of some prominent family, traveling with guards for experience. Doon then showed the loot dropped by the leader monster and gave it to him. The people exclaimed that even if he couldn't use them himself, they were worth tens of thousands of crystals each, and the ladies lovingly asked Doon if he needed a maid to serve him. He saw that one item was a big golden charm named Chasing Red, which he thought was an agility skill book perfect for Wang Yu. The other item was Dark Shield, and he told Doon that they would sell the shield for money later. A warrior, being helped by a priest, called them two mighty warriors and asked if they could have a word with them, which they agreed to. A moment later, the mayor of the city respectfully thanked them for intervening and saving Longbow City. The man then introduced himself as Kai Dongming, the mayor of Longbow City, and noted that they seemed unfamiliar and not like locals. He replied that they were originally there on business but had been stuck there and couldn't leave for now. He then inquired if Kai Dongming had any idea why they were there. Kai Dongming, visibly afraid, replied no and asked if it was because they had triggered the highest alert. Kai Dongming then apologized, admitting that it was their fault for causing such inconvenience. He quickly clarified that it was not their fault, knowing he was the one who had caused it. Kai Dongming then ordered his man to fetch the flight scroll they had just bought and offered it as an apology, which the man agrees to. He was surprised upon hearing this, knowing that the flight scroll was a rare find in those parts, and although it was single use, it made short distance travel convenient and fast. Kai Dongming mentioned they had an unpleasant request due to the chaos lately and asked if they could stay in Longbow City for a few days because, as they saw, their defense forces were indeed a bit thin. He apologized to Kai Dongming, explaining that his schedule was tight and he might not be able to fulfill his request. The truth was his class transformation only had 3 days left. and if delayed, the first transformation would never be completed. He then asked Kai Dongming if he thought he was very idle, making Kai Dongming fearfully reply that it was their oversight. The man then handed Kai Dongming the scroll he wanted and offered him the supreme black card from the Yuan Cheng trading post as a small token of appreciation. He was shocked upon seeing it, having heard that the supreme black card from the Yuan Cheng trading post is only given to a select few successful individuals, granting various privileges. This made him realize why Kai Dongming could afford a flight scroll and guessed that Kai Dongming's status must be extraordinary. Duen grabbed the gift and thanked Kai Dongming with a smile. The mayor expressed his hope for them to just accept it, otherwise, he was really worried about being blamed. He asked if they could seek help from them if Longbow City encountered danger in the future. He replied that there was no problem with that, as long as he had the time, making everyone cheer, believing that Longbow City was now safe. They then used the flight scroll and happily enjoyed their fast flight. Meanwhile, in Qingyu City, at the class transfer hall, the cleric happily announced to them that Wang Yu had emerged. Cheng and Wang Yu then came out of the hall, but she looked up when she felt something coming and saw purple and green lights fly past them at full speed. Cheng asked her what was wrong, and she replied that she just saw two people flying by, guessing one of them seemed to be Ningfeng. Cheng, skeptical, remarked that the flight scroll costs thousands of crystals, which a poor guy like Ningfeng couldn't afford. He also questioned what Ningfeng was doing at the class transfer hall since he had just awakened. She sternly warned Cheng that if he ever spoke ill of Ningfeng again, she would make him regret it. Cheng stepped back in fear, wondering why he always brought up a worthless loser, and what was wrong with him compared to Ningfeng. The cleric then diverted their attention by inquiring about her second transformation tasks. Cheng proudly stated his was a grade, lamenting he didn't achieve an S grade. The Berserker man reassured Cheng that an A grade was already commendable and only the luckiest could get an S grade. The mage man added that completing a second transformation at 18 was already an achievement coveted by top universities, and A grade tasks were rare opportunities. The cleric then turned to Wang Yu, who silently looked down, prompting a pause from the group. The cleric noted Wang Yu's strange expression and speculated if she had drawn a task below C rank. Chen smugly thought that even the praised genius girl has her off days, as the task level directly affects attribute bonuses and skill unlocks. Chen consoled her not to be too upset and to just work hard to catch up in the future, offering his help if she fell behind with a C grade task, thinking it was quite a setback. She angrily informed Cheng that she was not upset about an A grade, so she wouldn't be upset about an S grade, leaving her whole team shocked. The cleric asked her why she hadn't said so earlier, and she replied that it was because her situation seemed different from others, revealing her task had unlocked a hidden class never seen before. Raising his voice, asked her how it was possible. He pointed out that when she awakened, her profession was already determined and mentioned he had never heard of hidden professions being triggered during a profession change. He also asked if she might be mistaken. A few moments before, Wang Yu was inside the transition formation when the system revealed that the profession advancement system had detected the possession of a key item, the Vanguard emblem. This item could advance her original profession from Swift Archer to Shadow of the Vanguard, with the profession change task undergoing corresponding changes. Consequently, her current profession, Swift Archer, advanced to Shadow of the Vanguard, and the system inquired if she wanted to proceed with the advancement. She wondered what was happening and why such an interface existed, but then remembered the Vanguard emblem was a gift from Ningfeng. Surprised by its effect, she pondered whether Ningfeng had known about this advancement. Gratefully accepting the advancement, she thanked Ningfeng for his gift. She explained to the cleric how it happened, prompting the cleric to question how she could make such decisions casually. Cheng, interjecting loudly, asked what Shadow of the Vanguard was, expressing skepticism about the profession change system and cautioning her that a wrong choice could ruin her life. She firmly told him not to worry about her affairs. He insisted he was concerned for her well-being, but then the conversation was joyfully interrupted by the Berserker, who expressed envy and inquired how someone could obtain a 5-star hidden profession and still advance. The cleric, too, expressed a wish for a childhood friend like Ningfeng, leaving Cheng shaking with anger on the side. However, Cheng calmed himself, determined to find the emblem regardless of the cost or danger involved. Meanwhile, Ningfeng took out the Divine Emblem, a consumable item of orange quality, granting permanent +5 to stamina and spirit attributes. Consuming it, his S-level completion reached 100%. The system then indicated that his profession change had begun. He laughed happily, not only because of the significant attribute increase but also because new passive skills were added to him. He wondered about the level of mastery he could achieve in the precise manipulation of a forbidden spell. The system revealed he had gained a passive skill, Mastery of Darkness, which greatly increased his control over the power of darkness, allowing him to accurately manipulate forbidden spells. He was shouting, thrilled about trying it out next time, while Duen waited for him outside. Suddenly, someone appeared. It was Quang Lan, wondering if Duan was the fighter she had met last time and why he was with Ningfeng. She then noticed that Duan seemed to be guarding Ningfeng and remembered that, according to intelligence investigations, Duan, despite his young age, already possessed the strength of a fourth transformation. Even on a national scale, Duan was considered a rare and strong individual. However, according to her staff, when they entered, the fighter Duan always followed behind Ningfeng, showing a very respectful attitude. She then tells Kai Wai that her student is not simple and that it is up to her next. Kai Wai responded that she shouldn't worry because she would go and confirm with Ningfeng herself. She believed that Ningfeng would never become their enemy. A moment later, he was walking outside with Duan, happily chatting when someone called him from behind. He was surprised to see his teacher, Kai Wai. He then told her that he remembered she had called him earlier and asked if there was something she needed. She replies that there indeed was something she wanted to know about him. Upon hearing this, Duan calls him boss and says he'll wait for him over there, leaving him surprised when Kai Wai asks why Duan calls him boss. He awkwardly laughed and told her not to mind Duan because he was joking. She asked him if it was true that he had completed the first transformation, leaving him confused and without an answer. He was surprised because, although he hadn't expected to keep his power a secret, it had been discovered too quickly. He knew that his teacher, Kai Wai, had always taken care of him and was one of the few people he could trust. Believing she wouldn't harm him, he replied affirmatively and told her that explaining it was a bit complicated, so he didn't want too many people to know. She then posed another question, which she admitted might sound strange, but it was essential for her to confirm. She asked if he had been influenced by the power of darkness. His response was a question in return, wondering why she would ask such a thing and if his system's anomalies were becoming evident. She explained that, as he was aware, the world had recently experienced anomalies, with the boundary between their realm and reality weakening, leading many to be influenced by the power of darkness, gradually transforming into mutants. He replied that he understood her concerns but reassured her there was no need to worry. He was not a mutant. This was a lie, as he knew mutants were closely monitored by the authorities, and he wanted to avoid any association with them. She then produced a black crystal, expressing her hope that he would cooperate with a test. She explained that by injecting his power into the crystal, it would reveal the extent of darkness within him. He looked at the crystal hesitantly, sweating profusely, which did not escape her notice. She wondered if he might indeed be a mutant. With an awkward laugh, he confessed his nervousness, attributing it to the novelty of the situation, and then channeled his power into the crystal, causing it to shatter and explode in Kai Wai's hand. Stunned by the outcome, he questioned what had just happened. Kai Wai, shaken with fear, recalled Quang Lan's explanation that the black crystal was a demon crystal, extremely sensitive to the power of darkness. Authorities often used it to detect mutants. The crystal would vibrate upon detecting darkness, with the intensity of the vibration indicating the level of darkness. However, she was at a loss as to what a direct shatter meant. He admitted to her that it seemed unbelievable for him to change his profession right after awakening, but reminded her of their long-standing relationship, questioning if she didn't at least trust him as a person. She reflected on the young man before her, who had lost his parents at an early age and awakened later than his peers, yet managed to maintain an optimistic and positive outlook. She then responded that she personally trusted him, but it was her duty to report the day's events, hoping he would understand. He reassured her that he understood her position, expressing uncertainty about the official's reaction and contemplating the possibility of leaving Kinyu City if necessary. She then presented him with a gift she had prepared to celebrate his successful completion of the first turn, handing him a purple skill book. Gratefully accepting it, he offered her a gift in return, thanking her for her years of support. The item was a holy feather wing belt, orange in quality, with a level requirement of 30, increasing spirit by 20, stamina recovery and healing effectiveness by 50%, dark resistance by 100%, and featuring the special ability of casting healing spells without chanting, allowing up to 3 inlays. She exclaimed in surprise at its invaluable no chanting feature, recognizing how it could save lives at critical moments. Despite her protestations about the gift's value, he insisted it was merely loot from his profession's transition task and urged her not to be polite. Announcing his friend was waiting, he excused himself, leaving her to marvel at his departure with Duan. She found it hard to believe Ningfeng had given her such a prestigious item as a gift, pondering over his true nature. Later, at the adventurer's office, Kai Wai presented the shattered black crystal to Quang Lan, who admitted she had never encountered such a phenomenon. As Kai Wai expressed concern over the potential for Ningfeng to be perceived as a threat, Quang Lan advised her to let the matter rest. Questioning the rationale behind this approach, Quang Lan explained that their student might have exceeded their current understanding, suggesting they should aim to win Ningfeng over rather than provoke him by prying too deeply into his abilities. The woman inquired of Quang Lan whether they should proceed with reporting the incident, but Quang Lan decisively replied no, instructing her to suspend the investigation into Ningfeng for the time being, with all related information to be strictly confidential. She emphatically agreed, rationalizing that, given Ningfeng's youth and lack of backing, this decision also served as a form of protection for him. Quang Lan suggested that since Ningfeng preferred to keep his secrets, their attention should shift towards the martial artist. Moreover, with recruitment season underway, adding another strong individual to their ranks could only be beneficial. Meanwhile, at Ningfeng's residence, Duan noticed Ningfeng's subdued mood and inquired about the cause. Ningfeng shared that his teacher, Kai Wai, had messaged him about the cancellation of his investigation. When Duan wondered if that was good news, Ningfeng acknowledged it was, yet he expressed concerns about leveling up in the future. He noted that every time he disrupted a mystery realm, it created significant disturbances, drawing unwanted attention from the authorities. Such scrutiny, he feared, could lead to complications. Duan marveled at Ningfeng's unique problems, musing that they were indeed the concerns of someone extraordinary. He suggested focusing on leveling up in unrecorded mystery realms, pointing out the emergence of numerous new realms due to world anomalies. Some were beyond the authorities' control due to resource constraints, while others were under the sway of malevolent forces. Ningfeng saw merit in this approach and inquired if Duan had any leads on such realms. Duan confirmed he had information on two and could procure more, given Ningfeng's needs. Agreeing to rely on Duan's assistance, Ningfeng considered this strategy more practical than navigating challenges as a student. He also planned a visit to the trading post the following day to sell his loot, viewing it as an ideal opportunity for a respite. Confident in his enhanced forbidden spell capabilities, Ningfeng felt no concern about lagging in his progress compared to others. Later, at the Express Hotel, Duan was making his way to the entrance. He hadn't realized it was already evening after returning from Ningfeng's place and decided to spend another night at the hotel. He planned to look for a place to rent the next day. Upon entering the hotel, a man greeted him warmly, prompting Duan to inquire about the man's identity. The man introduced himself as Zhang Jai, the mayor of Kinyu City, and expressed his gratitude to Duan for his assistance during the recent Mystery Realm invasion. Zhang Jai was eager to know if Duan had any intentions of settling in Kinyu City. Duan confirmed that he did indeed wish to make the city his home. Pleased with this response, Zhang Jai conveyed the city's warm welcome to strong individuals like him and presented Duan with a special adventurer credential. He explained that this credential, issued by the city, came with considerable privileges. Zhang Jai assured Duan that should he need anything in the future, the city would do its utmost to accommodate him. Accepting the card, Duan examined it thoughtfully. Zhang Jai shared that he was aware other cities had previously attempted to recruit Duan, only to be rejected. He hoped Kinyu, being smaller, wouldn't be seen as less desirable by Duan. However, Duan expressed his gratitude and acceptance of the offer, putting Zhang Jai's concerns to rest. Zhang Jai, unaware of Ningfeng's circumstances, was thrilled at the prospect of having Duan, a fourth-turn powerhouse, in Kinyu City. He believed Su Lan's suggestion to recruit Duan was excellent. Upon learning Duan was in search of accommodation, Zhang Jai insisted there was no need for Duan to trouble himself, promising to arrange it immediately. Duan thanked Zhang Jai, appreciating the gesture. Meanwhile, in Ningfeng's home, he won his online game and realized it was very late, so it was time for him to sleep. But he wondered why their class group was still chatting at that late hour. He then opened the chat box and saw his classmate Zhang Luo asking others what level they were now, which his classmates answered. Zhu Nana tells everyone that it looks like they are all below level 30, and Zhang Luo, panic, asks what they should do when all the city's dungeons are closed and they are not being let out of the city easily, so their levels are going to fall behind. Ma Ziobo tells everyone that he heard the goddesses went out of the city, and Fang Yu replies that they went to do their second-tier task. But they should not talk about it because if they have the ability at tier 1, they can also go out. He knows that those classmates of his awakened at the age of 16 and wanted to participate in the college entrance examination, which requires reaching tier 1 or above, and he didn't expect to surpass them in just a few days. He then read in the chat box that Lai Daning tells everyone that while they are worrying, there are people with a better mentality than them, and some people are playing games until now. Lai Daning then mentioned him. He knows that it was another admirer of Wang Yu and wonders if Lai Daning saw the updates on his account and what business it is of theirs if he plays games. He then saw his teacher Kai Wai telling Lai Daning to mind his own business and not to worry about others, making Lai Daning delete his messages. He laughed victoriously and shouted that his teacher, Kai Wai, was really considerate. He then looked back to the chat box when a message popped up and saw that Ma Ziobo sent news about multiple places experiencing dungeon invasions, causing serious casualties, and tells everyone that he heard some cities have completely fallen, occupied by monsters. The safe zones are useless, and others are out of control mutants. Zhang Luo responded that it was there too, but later he heard it was an unknown big shot who drove the monsters away. Lai Daning asks if they have such a powerful hidden big shot in Kinyu City, and Zhang Luo replies that the sense of security is suddenly full. Lai Daning then says that if he knew who that big shot was, he'd go bow down to him as his grandfather. He shouted that before, he had only heard Kai Wai and Duan talk about the world anomaly, so he didn't expect it to be that serious, and then he begged not to ruin it for him because he has just started enjoying a few good days. He thinks it was a pity about the monster last time, otherwise he would have killed it, making the demon inside the pendant sneeze and ask why he suddenly felt scared. The next day, at the Yuancheng trading post, Yang Xin, who was injured last time, was back to work. The lady saw her and asked her how someone could come to work without fully recovering from injuries. She stutteringly replied that she was not badly hurt and she was fine now, but the lady told her that while she was saying she was fine on the surface, she was actually wanting to climb the high branches as soon as possible in her heart. She shouted at the lady that she was not, but the lady told her that it was too bad because her high branch was just a petty thief who didn't know any better. Ning Feng, she said, had actually stolen from a fourth transformation strongman and had probably been crushed to pieces by now. She angrily shouted at the lady that she was talking nonsense because Ning Feng couldn't be that kind of person. But the lady laughingly told her that their master, Wang, had specially sent someone to investigate that guy, and the one surnamed Ning was just a waste who awakened as a one-star professional at the age of 18, with both parents dying early, and he had no ability to get high-level items. The lady also told her that now that the fourth transformation strongman had come directly to Ning Feng's door, so if Ning Feng was not a thief, then question what is he. Suddenly, someone sharp appeared in front of the lady. He apologized to her and told her that her mouth really needed a beating because she almost made him lose his temper, and the lady slammed onto the ground in fear while in front of her was a sharp stone from the floor. The lady looked back and saw that it was him and asked him how dare he use offensive spells in the trading post. The lady then shouted for the guards. Yang Xin told him to go quickly before the guards arrived, but he just told her not to worry. She explained to him that the forces above the Yuancheng trading post were not small at all and ordinary people couldn't afford to offend them, so if they caught him, it would be troublesome. Suddenly, someone with the guards appeared, and Wang asked him who gave him the courage to act recklessly in their Yuancheng trading post. He just told Wang that he heard he was investigating him behind his back and even framed him as a thief. Wang told him that whether he was a thief or not, he knew best, and if he wanted to question him, he was not qualified enough. The guards then rushed to him, but he just showed his card and told Wang that he understood now that this was how he treated guests in his Yuancheng trading post. The guards forcefully stopped themselves from getting closer to him when they saw the card. Wang, who was in shock, asked him if it was the supreme black card of their trading post, and the lady asked how that was possible. The lady then shouted that it must be fake. He told Wang that it was a gift from Mayor Kai Dongming, so it carried some weight. Wang asked him where he got it from, but he retorted by asking Wang if he wasn't good at investigations and told him to investigate it himself. The lady, who was in horror, asked Wang what they should do, but Wang just ordered the guards to keep an eye on Ning Feng while he would make a call to inquire. On the other hand, the people outside weren't allowed to enter and wondered what was going on because the guards were stopping them from going through. A moment later, Kai Dongming, who was on the phone with Wang, told Wang that the HQ had informed him he was investigating the membership card he gave to Ning Feng and asked what was going on. Wang stutteringly replied that nothing was going on and it was just a small misunderstanding, knowing that Kai Dongming's father is one of the founders of the trading post, and wondered how Ning Feng could befriend Kai Dongming. But then Kai Dongming, shoutingly, tells Wang that Ning Feng is someone he worked hard to win over, and if he offends him, Wang fearfully responded that he hadn't and told Kai Dongming not to worry about it because he would handle it properly. However, Kai Dongming figured out that he really had offended Ning Feng and asked him what gave him the guts. Kai Dongming hit his table in anger and told Wang to wait for him because he would be right there, then hung up, leaving Wang wondering in tears what the relationship between Kai Dongming and Ning Feng was and why Kai Dongming was so angry. Wang then figured out that he would call that fourth transformation Big Shot and tell him that the fighter suit had been found, knowing that even if Duan confronts Kai Dongming, Duan would have to show some respect. A moment later, in the waiting area of the Yuancheng exchange, Kai Dongming and Duan were rushing toward him. He asked them why they were there, and Yang Xin was surprised to see Mayor Kai Dongming and the 4-star boss from last time, wondering why they seemed so warm to Ning Feng. Kai Dongming and Duan then angrily looked at the lady, making her feel scared and wonder why they were all flattering her. She was shocked to see her boss, Wang, weak and defeated. The lady asked Wang what was wrong with him, and Wang replied that it was over and all was gone. Kai Dongming respectfully asked him if he really did not need them to apologize, and he replied that there was no need because he didn't think Wang was the kind of person who would repent just by apologizing. Kai Dongming then shouted to Wang and the lady to pack their things in a hurry and get out of there, leaving both stunned in shock and defeat. Wang then slapped the lady while shouting at her that it was all because of her and that she had ruined him. Kai Dongming, in frustration, called the guards and ordered them to get those two out of there. A moment later, in the VIP room, Yang Xin served them tea, and Kai Dongming noticed that Ningfeng seemed to have a good impression of Yang Xin and was glad that it was not ruining the exchange's reputation completely. Yang Xin then stared at him, thinking that he was really impressive because, at a young age, he was able to converse with those big shots so effortlessly. Kai Dongming then told her that she had been wrong this time, but she should work hard in the future and the exchange wouldn't let her down. She shyly agreed and responded that she would definitely work hard. He apologized to Kai Dongming for going to all that trouble for his sake, but Kai Dongming replied that it was not a problem at all because his matters were his matters, and if it wasn't for his intervention last time, Longfu City would have been in danger. Kai Dongming then told him that he seemed to be interested in the treasure catalog of the exchange and asked him if there was something specific he was looking for. He replied yes and asked Kai Dongming if he had heard of something called the Relic of the End. Kai Dongming asked him what relic he was talking about, and Duan asked him about the end of what it was, but he just told them not to mind it and that he had seen it on the internet yesterday, so he thought it was some rare item. He then remembered getting the book out of his inventory, which was the Spirit Energy Extraction book given by his teacher Kai Wai for mages to temporarily replenish their mana in battle. He wondered what kind of forbidden spell it would turn into. He then absorbed it using his Dark Confluence skill, which absorbs the residual dark power from it and transforms it into one's own attributes. After that, he wondered if that character was pronounced D because he had never heard of it and saw that the system didn't explain it, making him wonder where he was supposed to find it. However, he decided to forget about it for a while since there was no rush to use it, and went to sleep. A moment later, when he had finished his business at the exchange, Kai Dongming told him that the trip was hasty, but next time they must visit Longbo City again. He would host them. Kai Dongming then took out a flight teleportation scroll and used it to fly back to Longbo City. He then told Duan that they should have something to eat together, but Duan suggested they eat at his place. A moment later, in Duan's villa, he was amazed while looking around and asked Duan if it was the house the city had provided him with. Duan replied that they say those of 4 turns and above who choose to stay in Kinyu City get special treatment, and if he liked it, he should consider moving there and he could find another place. But he just laughingly told Duan that it was not necessary because he would save up some money and buy one, so he could be his neighbor. Duan seriously told him that if he was in need of money, he had some as well, but he just asked Duan how he could use his money. He smiled, knowing that he had earned a fair amount of crystal coins from selling equipment lately, so converting it to cash and buying a villa wasn't a problem for him at all. But in that way, he wouldn't have many crystals left, and if he needed them later, it was always a bit troublesome. He knew there was no rush to move in, so he shouldn't worry too much. After eating, he drank tea and felt refreshed. Duan told him that the villa area had its own chefs and he had already called them, so they would be there soon, making him think that it was quite convenient. Suddenly, Duan's phone rang, and Zhang Jai told him that there was something he might need his help with because the investigative team from above was probing the disasters that struck their city, and there were some complications, so he'd like to discuss them with him. Duan looked at him, making him confused, and Duan thought their investigation might affect Ningfeng, so he thought he'd ask Ningfeng's opinion first. He apologized to Zhang Jai and explained that he might not have time today. Zhang Jai told him that there were no worries about it and that whenever he had time in the next 2 days, he should just contact him. After Duan told him everything, he told Duan that he wondered what kind of people they were. Meanwhile, someone said that in the forsaken city of Kinyu, the notion of a mysterious boss was laughable. In the meeting room, the man arrogantly asked if anyone had ever seen the so-called mysterious big shot. Quang Lan replied that no one had. The man then questioned why there was such a widespread rumor that this mysterious big shot had saved Kinyu City when no one had seen him. Quang Lan explained that it was mainly because the dungeon invasion had suddenly stopped at that time, and the mutants assisting in the invasion were also wiped out. However, the man shouted at her not to joke and stated that until they thoroughly investigated, the danger level of the dungeon invasion couldn't be used as evidence. He then inquired about the other 2 incidents in the dungeon, 2 attacks above king level, and what their so-called mysterious big shot had done. Quang Lan remained silent and did not answer. Kai Wai looked down, thinking that to protect Ningfeng, Quang Lan had used her authority to modify all the information that might involve him, making all the pressure from that matter fall on her. Suddenly, Zhang Jai barged into the meeting room and stutteringly informed everyone that he had just called Duan. But Duan said he was busy today. The man angrily exclaimed that he was so annoyed by those free adventurers who were out of control because they were just stray dogs without a guild, acting so busy. He then told Zhang Jai to forget about it because he would take full charge of the investigation, and they should all do something else. Later, in the dungeon at Away Tomb, the man stepped on a branch on the ground, causing a cracking sound. The guard stopped him from approaching closer to the dungeon, but he smilingly greeted them good evening. One of the guards recognized him as the one from the investigation team. He told them he'd like to come inside the dungeon and do some investigation, which the guards smilingly agreed to. He then walked inside the dungeon and thought that although it was not his first time entering, seeing the level of destruction still made him marvel, making him wonder what kind of power could destroy a dungeon so thoroughly. He noticed that even the remnants of the dark power were still pure and powerful, and thought that no matter what nonsense about a mysterious big shot they talked about, in the face of such an existence, they were like ants. In a surge of excitement, the man shouted jubilantly that it was truly a thrilling place. Raising his hand, he unleashed a dark power, summoning a demon from the residual darkness. He crazily proclaimed that it was indeed worthy of a king-level threat, as the surrounding area brimmed with formidable forces, all of which were now his. Meanwhile, at Duan's mansion, Ningfeng was intently using his phone when the system alerted him that it had detected the final relic. Shocked, he realized that something was connecting with him through its aura, knowing that focusing would clarify the connection and reveal the relic's location. He grabbed his coat from the floor and put it on while standing. When Duan inquired where he was going, Ningfeng replied that he needed to step out for a bit. He handed his phone to Duan, instructing him to finish the round for him and to avoid losing any ranks, leaving Duan confused. Ningfeng then hailed a taxi and noticed from the navigation that the relic was near the treacherous graveyard, and he was stunned to see that it was moving. At the entrance to the treacherous graveyard dungeon, the guards confronted a demon while reporting that an unidentified creature had been spotted in the area. Trembling with fear, the guards frantically questioned the nature of the creature in front of them. Meanwhile, atop the demon, the man cried out, immobilized and pleading for help. Back on the road, traffic halted as someone announced that no passage was allowed ahead due to danger. The taxi driver informed Ningfeng that they couldn't proceed further, to which Ningfeng responded that it was okay, and he would get off there. He sensed that the relic had stopped moving for now. In the graveyard, chaos ensued as the solitary shadow approached. The guards and Quang Lan, who had just arrived, were all shocked to see the man on top of the demon. Quang Lan, in surprise, demanded to know what was happening. A moment later, as the demon rampaged, Quang Lan lay severely injured on the ground. Fortunately, Kai Wai was there to assist, utilizing the advanced equipment Ningfeng had provided. This gear allowed her to forego the usual chanting and begin treatment immediately. Despite her efforts, Kai Wai understood the gravity of the situation. Even Quang Lan, in her strength, could not halt the demon alone. After some preliminary healing, Quang Lan stood and urgently inquired about the demon's whereabouts. Kai Wai, still concerned, replied that it had headed towards the downtown area. She added anxiously that Major Zhang Jai had already called Duan for help, but she was uncertain if they would arrive in time. Quang Lan, knowing that Duan's capabilities were similar to her own, realized that Duan alone might not be enough to confront the demon. However, the person backing Duan could be their final hope. Meanwhile, the demon continued its destructive path through the city, seething with rage. It was caught off guard by Ningfeng, who, astonished, remarked that it was the end of Term's skull and far too large. As Ningfeng contemplated whether to subdue it with another forbidden spell first, the demon lunged at him, claws aimed at his head. The claws struck with a loud clang against his shield, startling the demon and making it recoil in fear, wondering how such a defense was possible. At that moment, the system alerted Ningfeng that it had detected the end of Term's skull and inquired whether he wished to initiate absorption. He clicked yes, curious whether proximity was a requirement for absorption. His eyes widened as the absorption began, releasing a powerful, bright light in front of the demon. The light struck the demon, causing it to scream in pain. As the light engulfed it, Ningfeng glimpsed the story of how a man had transformed into this demon and led a horde of monsters. Following the encounter, all of Ningfeng's attributes increased by 100. Amazed, he realized that such a generous increase was unprecedented, even for a 3-star profession advancing from level 0 to the 3rd transformation. However, he also sensed that something more than just attributes had been absorbed, as images of different stages began to form in his mind. Suddenly, Duan appeared behind Ningfeng and rushed to him, asking what had happened. Ningfeng pointed to the fallen demon and explained that there had been a demon, but he had taken care of it as it seemed necessary, especially since the man had collapsed behind the demon's head. Duan, puzzled, wondered if this was the demon Zhang Jai had mentioned in reports of a monster invasion. He knew Ningfeng was adept at handling monsters, but the aura nearby didn't seem to emanate from a powerful spell, leaving Duan curious about how Ningfeng managed it. Ningfeng placed his hand on Duan's shoulder, smiling, and said he had arrived just in time and would leave the cleanup to him. Duan quickly agreed, understanding his role. Ningfeng then dashed away with lightning speed, leaving Duan amazed at his swiftness. Duan, aware that Ningfeng wasn't a mage, realized that his speed surpassed many agility-based professions and marveled that his boss truly was extraordinary, admitting to himself that he had much to learn. Later, in Kinyu's prison, the man implicated as the monster was behind bars while a report circulated. It detailed that the man had stumbled upon the demon in a mysterious realm where he could harness dark power for his own use. He had taken advantage of the investigation to enter the realm and absorb the dark power, not anticipating that the demon would spiral out of control. Zhang Jai, filled with excitement, declared that there really was a mysterious boss protecting Kinyu City. Huang Lan and Kai Wai couldn't help but smile at this revelation. Zhang Jai then turned to Duan and inquired if he had ever seen this mysterious boss. Duan responded that he had the honor once, leaving the ladies stunned and intrigued by his revelation. Zhang Jai, hopeful, asked Duan if he could arrange an introduction with the mysterious expert, promising that if the expert were willing to stay permanently in Kinyu City, they would meet whatever needs might arise. Duan, however, explained that his boss preferred to keep a low profile and rarely made public appearances, suggesting that they abandon the idea. Privately, Duan was relieved that he and Ningfeng had cleverly deflected attention to this non-existent mysterious expert, aware that without concrete evidence, nothing could be proven. Zhang Jai, disappointed, lamented that it was a pity, noting that countless individuals were likely eager to curry favor with such a powerful figure. Duan reassured him that the expert had relatives in Kinyu City and would naturally look after it, but correspondingly, the expert did not wish to be disturbed. This sparked a thought in Huang Lan, who wondered if the mysterious big boss might be related to Ningfeng. Kai Wai speculated whether this figure could be one of Ningfeng's elders. Meanwhile, at Ningfeng's house, he was showering when he realized that the so-called final relics were actually remains left behind by deceased secret realm demon lords, and the images that had appeared in his mind were fragments of a realm lord's memories, all absorbed together. He had no intention of becoming a realm lord himself, questioning the usefulness of these relics. However, his contemplation ceased when he recognized that some aspects of these relics could be incredibly beneficial. He understood that these realms, powered by accumulated dark energy, undergo periodic enhancements and could pose a significant threat if their invasive timelines were not resisted, potentially leading to apocalyptic scenarios. Ningfeng knew that in their timeline, few individuals had the power to reach the fourth transformation due to the incomplete cultivation paths of the awakened ones, and their professions seemed suboptimal. The information extracted from the Realm Lord's memory was ominously significant. He reasoned that while he had the strength to protect himself, he could not survive alone in a world overrun by monsters. Fortunately, not all timelines were subjected to realm invasions, as some had successfully repelled them. Ningfeng realized that collecting more remains and sharing the useful experiences contained within could have a significant impact. Yet, he also knew that how to disseminate this knowledge required careful consideration, as the information surpassed current understanding and, if mishandled, could lead to unforeseen consequences. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was Wang Yu. He asked her what was up and how he could help. Having successfully transitioned to the sharp shadow, Wang Yu told him she was treating him to dinner tonight, insisting he must come. He agreed immediately, playfully asking when he had ever missed a dinner she was treating. She confirmed it was a deal and said she would send him the location shortly, to which he replied that he understood. As she descended the stairs, her team surprised her with congratulations on her successful second transformation. Those around them were amazed she had achieved this at such a young age. Cheng mentioned he had reserved a private room at one of the best restaurants in the city to celebrate, but she apologized, explaining she had other plans that evening. She promised to host a celebration the following night and would invite everyone then. Cheng, a bit disappointed, questioned if they couldn't postpone her plans, but she insisted it was an important matter and left, leaving her teammates behind. Cheng, frustrated, remarked that Wang Yu had just completed her second transformation, but was already acting distant. The cleric girl defended Wang Yu, suggesting she must have something important to attend to and wasn't the type to disregard friends. However, Cheng expressed concern about the pace Wang Yu was setting, wondering aloud if everyone was exhausted from trying to keep up with her strides. He revealed that not only had Wang Yu completed the S-rank transition task, but she had also awakened a new hidden profession, suggesting the gap between her and the rest of the team would only widen. The cleric girl watched Wang Yu leave, while Cheng shared his fear that one day Wang Yu might leave the team behind entirely. That evening, in a bustling restaurant, Ningfeng excitedly surveyed the spread of food. Wang Yu recommended the roast whole lamb, praising its excellent taste despite its affordability, and urged him to try it. He agreed, playfully remarking that only by accompanying her could he enjoy such varied delicacies. She thanked him for the emblem he had given her, telling him how much it had helped her, but he simply nodded, absorbed in savoring his meal. Curious, he asked her if it was true that the emblem had activated a new hidden profession. Recalling the memories from the Demon King, he wondered if emblems were a means to enhance the Awakens and professions of their era, which were not yet at their optimal form. Wang Yu confirmed this, questioning him about the source of the emblems. He admitted his uncertainty about their origins. Wang Yu sighed, expressing her wish that they could purchase the emblems, as she wanted to distribute them to him and her teammates. He smiled, reflecting on how Wang Yu always included him whenever something beneficial arose. She reassured him that she would handle the emblem situation and urged him not to neglect leveling up, emphasizing the importance of self-protection in dangerous times and hinting that a suitable emblem might even unlock a new profession for him. He playfully responded that leveling up alone was troublesome, and having her protection was sufficient. She sternly told him not to give her that smile, insisting on the seriousness of her advice. Suddenly, Wang Yu winced in pain, causing her to clench her teeth. Concerned, he inquired about her discomfort. She downplayed it as a minor injury from a recent mission. He asked if she hadn't received treatment, to which she responded that she had. But as it was an S-rank mission, the boss had inflicted significant damage, and she still needed time to recover. This made him realize the daunting challenge of S-rank class change missions. Suddenly, his phone rang with an unknown number. When Ning Feng answered, a voice arrogantly demanded to know if he was Ning Feng. Instead of confirming, Ning Feng retorted, asking who was on the line. The caller, now angry, declared that it wasn't necessary for Ning Feng to know his identity and demanded to know where he got the emblem from. Wang Yu, noticing his puzzled expression, asked what was wrong. He explained that someone with a harsh tone was inquiring about the emblem. Panicked, Wang Yu wondered aloud how the caller knew, as she hadn't told anyone else. Ning Feng reassured her to forget about it and suggested they continue their meal. However, the phone rang again. The same man, now shouting, accused Ning Feng of hanging up on him and warned him that he would pay for it. Keeping his voice low to avoid alarming Wang Yu, Ning Feng hung up once more. After leaving the restaurant, Ning Feng cheerfully commented on how full he was. Wang Yu asked if he was sure he didn't need her to walk him home, to which he assured her it was unnecessary, dismissing the call as mere harassment. They bid each other goodbye. Later, as Ning Feng arrived at his apartment building, he inserted his key into the door, yawning as he entered, only to find his home in disarray, with several items destroyed. Startled, he then noticed a figure emerging from his bedroom. The man tauntingly greeted him as the young master Ning Feng. Ning Feng, taken aback, asked if this was the man who had called him. The intruder arrogantly confirmed and reminded him of his earlier warning, suggesting that Ning Feng should have answered his questions honestly to avoid this trouble. Ning Feng, trying to gather more information, asked who had sent him. But the man, now yelling, berated him for his lack of respect, insulting his recent awakening and questioning if his mentor hadn't taught him how to behave in the presence of the strong. Suddenly, another man appeared behind him and launched an attack. Ning Feng easily dodged it and swung his elbow backward, striking the man in the face. The impact made the man drop his dagger and collapse to the floor. The man in front of Ning Feng watched in horror. Smiling, Ning Feng told him to reconsider his earlier words about respecting strong individuals when faced with inquiries. The man was baffled, as the reports he had received clearly stated that Ning Feng was merely a one-star professional and a mage. He wondered how Ning Feng could possibly defeat a 3-star assassin barehanded while simultaneously grabbing the shuriken behind him. Meanwhile, Ning Feng glanced at his hand, contemplating that it was truly deserving of an all attributes plus 100 boost, given that both his reaction speed and physical capabilities had significantly improved, allowing him to handle many situations even without spells. He then dodged the shuriken thrown at him, which embedded itself in the wall behind. The assailant, realizing the situation was unfavorable, tried to escape by running towards the window and jumping out. However, Ning Feng grabbed the man's feet, causing him to slam face first into the wall and hang from the window. A moment later, Ning Feng ordered the men to clean up the mess they had caused. He shouted that his cabinet was also broken and they needed to compensate for it. One of the attackers pointed to the items on the table, explaining that they had already given him everything they had. Realizing the man was right, Ning Feng demanded they reveal who had sent them. The man replied that it was Zhao Cheng, the young master of the Lion's Vigil Guild, who believed Ning Feng possessed a unique emblem that couldn't be found elsewhere, and had hired them to learn more about him. Ning Feng pondered whether Zhao Cheng was the shield warrior from their guild, the one Wang Yu had mentioned. He warned Cheng that since he had initiated this conflict, he shouldn't blame him for being impolite, as there was a forbidden curse he hadn't yet used. He should consider himself lucky. Ning Feng then activated the Disturbing of the Mind curse, known as the Soul-Seizing Gloom ritual, a dark taboo that uses one's spiritual power to temporarily control the target's mind, transforming it into a powerful avatar. He then turned this curse on the men. Meanwhile, somewhere on the road, the mage informed Cheng that Wang Yu hadn't shown up and questioned the meaning behind the actions of those men. Cheng suggested they leave early and find somewhere else to have fun. As the mage was about to discuss the emblem, Cheng interrupted, stating that he had sent someone to find Ningfeng and that if Ningfeng didn't cooperate, they should make him wish for death. The mage expressed concern about Wang Yu finding out, to which Cheng replied that he couldn't control everything and questioned whether the mage wanted to see Wang Yu suffer alone. The mage admitted it was unfortunate that the transfer mission hadn't gone as planned and that they should teach Wang Yu a lesson. Cheng explained that he had originally intended for the boss to suppress Wang Yu's spirit and scare her, planning to later swoop in as the hero to save her. However, he hadn't anticipated Wang Yu fighting so fiercely, risking injury to defeat the boss. Suddenly, they were both startled when an assassin appeared in front of them. Cheng, recovering his composure, asked if the assassin had obtained the information he wanted. But the assassin countered, asking if Cheng was responsible for Wang Yu's injury. Stunned into silence for a few seconds, Cheng softly slapped the assassin's face, questioning how he dared to meddle in his affairs and whether he had a problem. A flame then ignited on the assassin's shoulder, prompting him to quickly seize both Cheng and the mage by the neck with incredible speed. He lifted them both and declared that anyone who harmed Wang Yu didn't deserve to live in their world. But he wouldn't let them die too easily either. Slowly, he burned them alive, telling them they could now truly understand what life worse than death felt like. As they screamed in pain, the men eventually turned into ashes. The assassin himself also slowly turned to ashes and disappeared. He knew that all evidence had been eradicated with the ashes, which was an effective way to cover his tracks. However, he also recognized the inherent danger of the situation, given that he lived in an ordinary neighborhood that couldn't prevent high-level awakened beings from coming and going. Although he wasn't afraid of them with his current strength, he knew he couldn't stay at home 24 hours a day. Originally, he had planned to organize some important matters based on the memories of the Demon Lord, and fortunately, he hadn't started yet. Otherwise, if the intruder had discovered them, it would have definitely caused trouble. Therefore, he decided to tidy up and move to Duan's place first, considering that Duan was a fourth transformation powerhouse, and the security in the high-end villa area was also excellent. Later, at Duan's villa, Duan angrily exclaimed that attacking a big shot was simply reckless. He told him to rest for a while because he would check immediately if anyone else was causing trouble behind the scenes. However, he assured Duan there was no need to rush and mentioned he had another matter to discuss. He asked Duan if he knew any reliable alchemists. Duan inquired about his requirements for the alchemist, to which he responded that he needed someone with high skill, trustworthy, preferably with straightforward relationships, and ideally freelance for simplicity. Duan mentioned that the alchemists he knew were quite skilled but had joined large guilds. He noted that this arrangement was not very suitable. Recalling the memories he had absorbed, he remembered the Demon Lord once killed several high-level alchemists, whose potions were significantly superior to those in their world. Unfortunately, he didn't understand the specifics and could only transcribe the scattered recipes to discuss with a professional. However, alchemists in large guilds often weren't free to act independently, and the risk of leaking secrets was higher. Given today's lesson, he wanted to avoid attracting greedy attention prematurely. He then asked Duan to keep an eye out for him in the future and mentioned that he would also ask others for leads. Later, he called Wang Yu to inquire about a reliable alchemist, and she replied that she knew one. Surprised, he asked her if she really knew an alchemist, to which she responded that their team's priest, Zhu Ting's brother, was a skilled alchemist who had originally planned to join their guild. However, it seems Zhu Ting's brother and Cheng didn't get along, so they didn't reach an agreement. If he was interested, she could introduce them. Annoyed to hear Zhao Cheng's name again, he thought Wang Yu was unlucky to have such a teammate but was relieved that he had helped her resolve a major issue, ensuring Cheng wouldn't cause trouble in the future. Wang Yu then asked him what he needed the alchemist for, and he explained that he had found some prescriptions at home and needed someone to help him evaluate them. Amused by her query if he had found them at home again, he laughingly admitted he was in the middle of cleaning up. She told him to wait a moment as she would arrange the introduction right away, and he agreed. Later, he met Zhu Ting's older brother, who introduced himself as Zhu Wai. Zhu Wai asked if he could examine the prescriptions. Meanwhile, outside the villa, Zhu Ting was visibly upset, complaining that she wanted to get closer to Ningfeng, but her brother had kicked her out because she was too noisy, causing Wang Yu to awkwardly laugh. Inside the laboratory, Zhu Wai examined the documents and noted that while the ingredients weren't particularly special, the refining method was unfamiliar to him and appeared quite complex. Curious, Zhu Wai asked him if he knew what the potion did. He replied that it was said to increase experience gain by 100%, which left Zhu Wai staring at him in open-mouthed shock. Zhu Wai then mentioned that the experience potions currently on the market could only increase gains by a maximum of 40% and were very expensive. He pondered whether a potion that could increase gains by 100% might allow even 1-star or 2-star professionals to level up quickly. He admitted that it was probable, but he wasn't sure and found it difficult to inquire elsewhere, which is why he had come to consult him. Zhu Wai then asked him to wait and led him upstairs to conduct an experiment, to which he nodded in agreement. From downstairs, Zhu Wai shouted for Zhu Ting to come in and serve tea to their guest. A moment later, they were seated in the living room, chatting cheerfully, when suddenly a loud crash from above startled them. They looked at each other in confusion, wondering what was happening. Zhu Ting headed towards the stairs, telling them she would go up to check. As she reached the top, something jumped in front of her, and she yelled that it was the slime her brother used for the experiments. Suddenly, something rushed at the slime, causing it to explode into pieces, stunning them all in shock. Zhu Ting immediately rushed into her brother's laboratory, worried, but found Zhu Wai jubilantly shouting that it worked and it really was 100% effective. Zhu Wai, pointing his flaming finger at them, which made Zhu Ting and Wang Yu look at him in confusion, excitedly called him over and explained that he had tested a bit of the potion he brought on the slime, and the experience gain was indeed 100%. He smiled, reassured that if this worked, the other prescriptions should work too. In his excitement, Zhu Wai used a fireball and accidentally destroyed his own laboratory table, which made Zhu Ting shout in disbelief. She remarked how her brother treasured his laboratory so much that he didn't even let her up there, but now he was the one dismantling it. A moment later, when things had settled down, the ladies, still in shock, asked if the experience gain really was 100%, to which he nodded smilingly. Zhu Wai urged them to keep their voices down and keep this a secret. Zhu Ting, however, reminded her brother that he had been the loudest just a moment ago. Zhu Wai then asked him what his next plans were, mentioning that selling it could make an unimaginable fortune. He also pointed out that in these dangerous times, no one would refuse something that boosts their strength. He remained silent, pondering, when suddenly his phone rang. He excused himself to check the message. Reading aloud from their class group chat, he announced that Kai Wai had informed everyone that the school was planning to organize all the senior 3 students for a leveling up session in a secret area of a neighboring city, starting next Monday. Due to limited space, each class would use it in shifts in designated areas, so they needed to prepare seriously and cooperate actively. As he read the group chat, Ma Ziobo commented that if they didn't level up, they would fail the college entrance examination. Zhang Luo added that he had heard the secret area was crowded lately, so there weren't enough monsters for everyone. Ma Ziobo asked why it was like that, and Fang Yu explained that with the rising anxiety everywhere, many 1-star and 2-star professionals were trying to level up again to protect themselves. He mentioned that he had tried to buy experience potions, but they were sold out and disappeared as soon as they were stocked. Zhang Luo agreed, noting that without experience potions, they were falling even further behind. He considered his classmates' conversation seriously, and then told Zhu Wai that he planned to use the experience potions for his own people first and sell them later. Zhu Ting called him boss and asked if she was considered one of his own, to which he replied, of course. Zhu Ting excitedly proclaimed that with his assurance, she and Wang Yu would be his bodyguards in the future. She then told her brother to use the potion as he pleased and not to be polite. He knew the potions were a hot commodity and that once they hit the market, they would definitely cause a sensation. Aware that the potential for huge profits could attract unwanted attention like flies buzzing around, similar to Cheng, he thought it better to first strengthen the people close to him and build his own influence. This way, when someone tried to play dirty tricks, they would have to think twice. He then inquired if the berserker in their team was named Zhu Jiangshu and mentioned that the experience potion could be considered part of Jiangshu's share as well. Wang Yu expressed her approval, saying that was great, and Zhu Ting added that he was the best, mentioning Jiangshu had been worried about not getting into the same university as them. He smiled, knowing Jiangshu was quite strong and got along well with Wang Yu, so they could consider including him. Zhu Wai playfully called him buddy but then corrected himself to boss, asking if he had any other prescriptions, to which he replied affirmatively and handed them over. Zhu Wai examined them seriously, noting that the list included many ingredients, some of which he had never heard of. He recognized the materials on 2 of the cards but admitted that his current skills were not sufficient to craft them. He agreed, acknowledging that these were prescriptions from another world, and it would be beneficial if they could use even a few of them. Wang Yu then suggested, since they were discussing it, that when the first batch of experience potions was ready, they should invite Jiangshu to level up together, a proposal Zhu Ting readily agreed with. Wang Yu then grabbed his shoulder, telling him he should join them too. He began to protest, asking why him again, but she reassured him not to worry because the city had just issued a notice allowing guilds to organize teams for leveling up outside, and he should simply come along with them. Before he could object further, Zhu Wai interjected that if they wanted enough potions for everyone, they needed to be ready by next Monday. Wang Yu set the plan for next Monday, thanking them for their hard work, while Zhu Ting jokingly remarked that her brother was idle anyway. He, feeling slightly overlooked, wondered why they hadn't asked for his opinion first. Days passed, and Monday arrived. He called Wang Yu to inform her that he was at the waiting place. Wang Yu instructed him to just wait by the roadside because they would be there shortly. As he waited as instructed, the class bus approached. The students inside wondered aloud if he was the person they were expecting, noting that they were heading out to level up today, but Ning Feng was not there. One of the female students questioned what Ning Feng was doing, acting like a tag-along, while one of the men remarked that even if Ning Feng wanted to tag along, no one would pick him up because, with such a low level, it was unclear who would need to protect whom in the dungeon, causing laughter to ripple through the bus. The stoplight turned green, and the bus continued driving away. One of the students suggested ignoring Ning Feng, the perceived underachiever, and using the time to catch some more sleep, which the others agreed with, though they expressed concern about how long they'd have to wait once they arrived at the secret area. Later, at the dungeon entrance, Ning Feng's classmates, along with Kai Wai, arrived at the site. A man asked Kai Wai when they could enter, and she informed him that it would probably take about 2 hours. Surprised, a woman asked if the wait would indeed be that long, to which Kai Wai responded that since they were in the second class, being part of the first batch to go in was already quite fortunate. Suddenly, the man spotted someone and exclaimed in surprise, asking if it was Ning Feng. The group then saw him accompanied by Wang Yu, Zhu Jiangshu, Zhu Ting, and Zhu Wai, which shocked everyone. The group headed to the dungeon entrance without lining up, prompting one of the students to loudly question why Ning Feng could bypass the line. Kai Wai explained that Ning Feng was leading the Shushi Guild, so he was heading directly to the deeper parts of the dungeon where there were fewer people, which was different from their situation. One man questioned how Ning Feng dared venture into the depths of the dungeon where any random monster could overpower him, and another angrily inquired what made him different from someone like Ning Feng, declaring that he too wanted to be led by the Sushi Guild and the Wang Goddess. At that moment, someone asked if by Wang Goddess he was referring to Wang Yu, ranked 5th on the National Super Rookie list, to which the student affirmed. Meanwhile, the guild leader told his team it seemed they had come to the right place. A woman in the guild announced it was time to go in, and they too headed to the dungeon entrance without lining up. The man inquired who they were to act so privileged, and the woman responded that those three, like Wang Yu, were all rookies on the National Super Rookie list. She introduced herself as Chang Muku, ranked 4th, the large man as Lai Qi, ranked 3rd, and the man as Gu Yunju, ranked 2nd. Deep in the dungeon, Zhao Jiangshu examined the potion with excitement and asked if it indeed was the experience potion with a 100% bonus. Zhu Ting playfully hit Jiangshu from behind, telling him to lower his voice, jokingly asking if he wanted everyone else to hear. Apologetic, Jiangshu explained he got too excited. He then asked Zhu Wai if it was true that the potion was very expensive. Zhu Wai responded that it wasn't too costly as the materials were common and the refining method straightforward, which paradoxically made the prescription very valuable. He speculated that if one could enhance strength at relatively low costs, nobody would refuse. Such a potion could even make Ning Feng a guest of honor in any top guild. Zhu Ting, bubbling with enthusiasm, told him that they all benefited from the big boss this time. Jiangshu chimed in, saying there was no need for many thanks, but in the future they should feel free to command him directly. He reassured them that since they were all on the same team, there was no need for formalities. Wang Yu watched them, reflecting on how Ning Feng, who wasn't good at socializing, had always had very few friends. This was especially true after his failed first awakening at 16, which led to mockery at school and made him more reclusive. It was rare to see him chatting so happily, and she hoped that from now on, Ning Feng could pick himself up. Clearing her throat to draw attention, she instructed everyone that since they didn't have a tank or magic output this time, they needed to ensure maximum safety in combat. She advised Ning Feng to avoid acting rashly to not attract monster attention and assign roles. Jiangshu would primarily tank, Zhu Ting would focus on buffs and protective skills, and Zhu Wai was to use potions opportunistically. They all nodded in understanding. Ning Feng stayed quiet, knowing that leveling up this way was too slow for his liking. But for the sake of team morale, he decided to go along with it. After all, rushing through levels with forbidden curses wasn't urgent and served mainly to gauge everyone's strength. Wang Yu then notched an arrow, drew her bow, and released it towards the monsters. The arrow exploded upon impact, eliciting screams of pain from the creatures. Sensing their presence, the monsters charged towards them. Zhu Ting raised her staff, channeling power from the crystal atop it to boost Jiangshu's strength. Jiangshu then lifted his massive axe and slammed it into the ground, unleashing a powerful underground attack that surged towards the advancing monsters. Meanwhile, Zhu Wei hurled his potions at the monsters, causing each impacted creature to burst into flames and turn to ashes. He excitedly shouted about the rapid increase in experience points and predicted that at this rate, he'd soon be able to refine a new type of potion. Jiangshu and Zhu Ting bumped fists, equally thrilled, proclaiming that they, too, could achieve their second transformation before the college entrance examination and join Wang Yu at a top university. However, their celebration was cut short by a laughing sound at the entrance, which sent a wave of panic through them. Jiangshu called out, asking who was there. A voice apologized, explaining that the laughter was involuntary. As they turned, they saw the top rookies of the nation entering the dungeon. Gu Yunju remarked that it was quite interesting to hear someone who hadn't even reached the second transformation talk so casually about getting into a top university. Zhu Ting informed them that they were on the national super rookie list. Gu Yunju teasingly replied that their fame wasn't bad since they were recognized so quickly. Wang Yu, noting that these rookies were not from around Kinyu City, wondered about their presence. She approached them and confirmed that they were simply leveling up, then inquired if the newcomers needed something. Gu Yunju replied that they had come specifically to find Wang Yu, then casually inquired why Ningfeng was asleep behind them. He then proposed that she consider joining their team, catching Wang Yu's team by surprise. However, she firmly responded that there was no need, as she already had her own team. Gu Yunju acknowledged her response but added that her team included the mage, Zhao Cheng, who was ranked 14th on the national super rookie list, suggesting that Cheng might also want to give their offer a try. He conceded that although Cheng's ranking was somewhat low, they should consider it a favor to her. Wang Yu clarified her stance, reiterating that she had no interest in joining another guild. Gu Yunju urged her not to refuse so quickly, explaining that in a small place like Kinyu City, information might be outdated. He elaborated that due to frequent anomalies in the dungeon, monsters were becoming increasingly challenging, and the 3 key universities had raised their admission standards. Only elite teams or individuals with highly favorable conditions were being recruited, and spots were limited. He emphasized that it was a rare opportunity and noted that all the rookies on the list were restructuring their teams, including his own, which was why they were inviting her specifically because of her team's potential. He seriously reminded her not to forget her destiny to become strong and then teasingly commented that weakness was the greatest sin. Wang Yu, angered, drew her sword, but Gu Yunju cautioned her not to get too excited, pointing out that as a ranged damage dealer, she wouldn't want to engage him there. Zhu Ting intervened, advising Wang Yu to let it go and suggesting they level up elsewhere to avoid further conflict. Wang Yu didn't verbally respond but walked off in another direction, and her team followed. Ningfeng, having just woken up and overheard the exchange, thought to himself that Gu Yunju really needed a reality check on his approach. However, he doubted whether he could outmatch him. Just then, as he tried to catch up with his team, Lai Qi stepped in front of him, arrogantly asking if he was Zhao Cheng. When Ningfeng replied no, Lai Qi dismissively told him to get lost and called him useless, prompting Ningfeng to glare furiously at Lai Qi. Jiangshu stepped in to defend Ningfeng, shouting at them that they were crossing the line. However, Lai Qi simply flexed his power, tauntingly questioning whether Jiangshu really thought he could protect others just by himself. Lai Qi then threw a punch, which Jiangshu managed to block with his arms, but Lai Qi followed through with another powerful swing, striking Jiangshu directly in the chest. Wang Yu, worried, called out Jiangshu's name and started to move towards them, but Gu Yunju quickly blocked her path. Infuriated, she yelled at him to get out of the way. Gu Yunju flinched, surprised and angered by her reaction. From the ground, Jiangshu yelled back at her that he was fine and urged her not to come closer, although he secretly felt several of his ribs crack under the force of Lai Qi's punch, realizing that Lai Qi was intentionally being brutal. He then tells Ningfeng to step back, thinking he can't let him get involved. Lai Qi mocked Jiangshu, calling him useless. In a burst of anger, Jiangshu launched a retaliatory fist, shouting at Lai Qi to go to hell. However, he was taken aback as Lai Qi's fist suddenly closed in on his face in mere seconds. Zhu Ting and Wang Yu, from a distance, raised their weapons ready to intervene and protect Jiangshu. Just as Lai Qi's fist was about to connect with Jiangshu's face, it was abruptly stopped. Ningfeng, who had swiftly moved into the fray, caught Lai Qi's fist mid-air, halting the attack. Wang Yu called out Ningfeng's name in confusion, and everyone was stunned to witness his incredible strength. Realizing he couldn't move, Lai Qi was shocked by Ningfeng's power. With ease, Ningfeng grabbed Lai Qi's arm, swung him around, and hurled him forcefully against a nearby massive stone. The impact shattered the stone, and debris fell onto Lai Qi. Ningfeng taunted him, calling him trash. Gu Yunju, distracted from Wang Yu, rushed to check on Lai Qi, but as he turned, Wang Yu shot an arrow that struck him in the buttocks, causing his eyes to bulge in pain and his hands to clutch the wounded area. Zhu Ting covered her mouth to stifle her laughter, and Mukyu stood in shock, unable to believe that the mage had defeated the berserker with bare hands and that the archer had hit the human shield at close range, especially given that Gu Yunju and Lai Qi were the elites of Supernova. Ningfeng expressed his frustration, noting that he had hoped to maintain a low profile and handle things quietly, but their actions were forcing him to reveal his capabilities, which he found troublesome. He then instructed Zhu Ting, who was still in shock, to focus and quickly treat Jiangshu. She responded affirmatively and began administering aid to Jiangshu. Ningfeng asked Jiangshu what they should do with Lai Qi, pointing towards him, but Jiangshu replied that he didn't know and would follow Ningfeng's orders. Noticing that everyone's attitude towards him had shifted to reverence, Ningfeng commanded Jiangshu, with a smile, to strip Lai Qi of his equipment as a form of compensation, which Jiangshu agreed to do. Gu Yunju, still on the ground, shouted angrily, calling them thieves and questioning how they dared to rob them. In response, Ningfeng slammed his fist into the ground near Gu Yunju, shattering it into pieces, and demanded, "What did you say?" Startled, Gu Yunju quickly changed his tone, commenting that the equipment he wore wasn't so bad and if Ningfeng liked it, he was free to take it. Ningfeng then put his hand on Gu Yunju's shoulder, noting that he was finally showing some sense. He stated he preferred to avoid trouble but warned that if there was any hint of retaliation from them later, they knew what would happen. Gu Yunju, trying to placate the situation, assured him there would be no repercussions and admitted that they had been blind to the situation, acknowledging they had brought this upon themselves. Mukyu, who was almost stripped of her gear, pointed out that all her equipment was there and suggested he should check it. Both Ningfeng and Gu Yunju were taken aback by her remark. Ningfeng responded sweetly, commending her sensibility, and then told his team they should move forward to level up, leaving Mukyu blushing with embarrassment. His team excitedly agreed. As they walked to the front, Wang Yu remarked that she had initially planned to help him level up, but no one would have guessed he was so skilled. He laughed and reminded her that he had only recently awakened, and being too showy could lead to trouble. Wang Yu, slightly annoyed, told him that if he didn't want to discuss it, she wouldn't push further, noting that he had always been like that. He appreciated her understanding, telling her she knew him best. To his surprise, she then grabbed his shoulder, expressing her happiness for his progress, to which he responded with a smiling thumbs up. Zhu Ting then asks him if he has decided which university he wants to attend, and Zhu Jiangshu counters by asking which guild he plans to join. He admits he hasn't thought about it yet. Zhu Ting tells him that it's alright for someone as strong as him, there's no rush to make a decision. Zhu Jiangshu responds that if he were as remarkable as him, he wouldn't worry about the college entrance examination at all. Meanwhile, Zhu Wei, exhausted, shouts at them not to walk so fast and to wait for him. He knows that both universities and guilds have strict rules and regulations, and there's always a risk of accidentally revealing secrets, so for him, joining doesn't seem necessary. He then shouts that he thinks they can push further ahead to level up faster. He suggests you can aggro more monsters each time, and he'll handle the primary damage dealing, while the others just need to clean up the fish that have slipped through the net. This idea excites them, and Zhu Ting excitedly shouts that he's really leading them forward. He thinks that even though he can't use forbidden spells, with the attribute boost and passive skills, he can make good use of the spells attached to his equipment. The next morning, he arrives at Duan's mansion, where Duan greets him. He feels disappointed because after days of hard work, he had only managed to increase one level. If it weren't for the new type of experience potion, his progress would have been even slower. This makes him realize that he has become so accustomed to using forbidden spells for leveling and defeating higher level monsters that he almost forgot this was the standard speed of leveling up. He knew that someone as exceptional as Wang Yu, a supernova, could reach level 60 and complete the second transformation within 2 years, but for average 1 or 2 star professions, rather than depending on leveling up by defeating low-level monsters every day, it was simpler to just attend a regular university. He then stretches his arms, deciding not to dwell on it because he doesn't want to think about it too much and just wants to enjoy a few lazy days at home to relax. He plays with Duan, reads a book, sleeps, and enjoys delicious barbecue, but then his phone rings. He picks up the phone, seeing that it's Yang Xin calling. Yang Xin tells him about an upcoming auction and mentions that there are some very good items available. She also informs him that the new Master Tang would like to know if he's interested in participating. He asks Yang Xin if Tang is taking over as the person in charge after Wang, to which Yang Xin confirms with a yes. He then tells Yang Xin that he hasn't been busy lately, so he might as well go over and have a look. She replies that she will be there with Tang shortly to bring him the catalog of auction items for his review, which he agrees to while wondering if the service is always this attentive. He thinks that Tang seems more adept at handling people than Wang was. On the day of the auction, Tang introduces himself as Tang Yikai, an appraiser at the Kinyu branch of the Yancheng Trading Center. He stands up to greet Tang Yikai, who shyly tells him that he is just getting started there and asks him to take care of him. Tang Yikai awkwardly smiles, remembering that before he arrived, Kai Dongming specifically instructed him to provide excellent service to this young individual. According to Kai Dongming's instructions, it was perfectly fine even if the entire Yancheng revolved around Ningfeng alone. Tang Yikai then orders Yang Xin to review the auction catalog with him, to which she replies affirmatively. When the tablet is in his hands, he notices that there are only some equipment and potions suitable for a mage, but they are of no use to him at all. He swiped fast, making Tang Yikai panic because he saw him flip through it so quickly that nothing caught his eye, making him think that he had underestimated his prowess and now his attempt to impress had only complicated matters. However, Ningfeng then spots something that surprises him. Tang Yikai peeks at the tablet and tells him that he has a good eye because he has certainly picked out the right item. Tang Yikai then explains that it is the latest experience potion, capable of boosting experience gained by 100% and is extremely rare, best suited for high-level adventurers looking to level up quickly. He knew all this because he was the one who discovered it. Duan tells him that it wasn't him, making Tang Yikai confused. Then, he asks Tang Yikai where they managed to get that potion from. Tang Yikai, stuttering, replies that it was an item the Azure Sharp Guild entrusted to the trading center for auction, and asks him if there's something wrong. Knowing that the Azure Sharp Guild ranks among the nation's top 7 elite guilds, renowned for its formidable power, he wonders if Zhu Wei sold the recipe to them secretly or if they did something to Zhu Wei. He then asks Tang Yikai if they ever disclosed where the potion came from. Tang Yikai replies that he heard about a newly discovered type of secret realm called the Trial of the Gods, which can only be explored by a single person. It seems the secret realm is divided into many floors, and upon completion of each floor, participants can earn corresponding rewards, including the potion recipe earned by their members through the trials. Duan mentions that it's the first time he has heard of such a secret realm, making him wonder if it could be another manifestation of the realm's anomalies. Duan also mentions that according to official regulations, all secret realms undergoing exploration must be registered, and basic information can be found on a dedicated website. He is relieved as long as Zhu Wei hasn't encountered any problems and thinks that the Trial of the Gods sounds like a formidable place. Suddenly, the system presents him with a mission called the Trial of the Gods, tasking him with passing the secret realm and utilizing its power for himself. The time limit is 60 days, and the punishment for failure is the eradication of the host. He smiles, noting that it's the first time the system has issued a mission, and thinks that the Trial of the Gods really has something special. Meanwhile, Tang Yikai winks at Yang Xin to make a signal, and she informs Tang Yikai that she won't be attending the auction, but she still appreciates all the effort he has put into it. Tang Yikai replies that it was no trouble at all, and if Ningfeng needs anything in the future, he should feel free to come to him anytime. Tang Yikai knows that those bottles of experience potion are considered the top item of the auction, with many guilds keeping a close eye on them. He did not expect Ningfeng to not even bat an eye at them. Duan then suggests that he should stay and have a conversation while he gathers some information about that secret realm, but Ningfeng insists on accompanying him. Moments later, they are back in Duan's villa, and Duan opens his laptop to begin searching. He mentions that he still needs the corresponding login permissions and can use the special credentials given to him by Mayor Zhang. Ningfeng gets closer to Duan as he accesses the website, and they find the Trial of the Gods information. Duan reveals that the registration rights of the Azure Sharp Guild are exclusive, meaning the officials or authorities allow them to manage independently, so without the permission of the Azure Sharp Guild, outsiders are not allowed to enter. He knows that the exclusive secret realms of major guilds are typically managed this way. However, with the threat of eradication for failing an assigned mission, he realizes he needs to think of other ways to approach this. A moment later, at the location of the trial secret realm, he opens a portal and sees guards on duty, which surprises him given the late hour. The Azure Sharp Guild had published extensive information about the trial secret realm on their own forum to attract more powerful individuals to join, which has certainly broadened his understanding. If he enters directly using his skills, they shouldn't be able to detect him. He smiles and jumps out of the portal, appearing behind the guards and teasing them. He then dashes toward the gate to enter, but suddenly it explodes, shocking him. A powerful explosion emanates from the gate, pushing the guards away, and the nearby city hears it, causing residents to wonder about the source of the loud explosion. They quickly deduce it came from the trial secret realm and decide they should report to the guild leader immediately. Meanwhile, back in his room at Duan's villa, a portal opens and he emerges injured, collapsing onto his bed in pain. He wonders what just happened. He recalls that as he approached the entrance to the secret realm, a powerful energy surged out, completely shattering his filthy earth shell shield, leaving him bewildered about the force he encountered. Suddenly, the system warns him that it resisted a probe, sustaining 3% damage initially, followed by another 4%, totaling 7% damage. He can hardly believe that even the system itself was damaged. In anger, he asks what kind of probing skill it was, but then the system's damage increases by seconds until it reaches a total of 34%. Meanwhile, at the Trial of the Gods, Azure Sharp Guild members arrived, and one of their healers attended to the guards who were pushed away by the blast. The healer informed their president that the guards were just stunned and had no physical injuries. When one guard regained consciousness, he was surprised to see the president. The president of the Azure Sharp Guild, Master He, asked the guard what had happened. The guard replied that he didn't know either, but he remembered a sudden explosion at the entrance of the trial's secret realm right before he passed out. Master He noted that such an incident had never occurred before and wondered if something unexpected was happening inside the secret realm. A lady suggested that they use a magical method to investigate, to which Master He agreed. She then conjured a magic circle above them and utilized her staff to activate her time reversal skill. Master He was relieved that the secret realm was equipped with a special array that could not only record images inside and around it but also be used for time reversal to review events. When the time reversal was complete, Master He was shocked and terrified upon seeing a black being emerging from the portal. They then witnessed the guardian of the Trial of the Gods confronting a bold, evil god, daring him to invade his territory. The god gathered power in its hand and hurled it at the advancing evil god, leaving everyone stunned at the sight of an evil being and a deity clashing. The god, furious that the evil god had slipped away again, declared that he must find its whereabouts as soon as possible to prevent further destruction of their world. The Azure Sharp Guild members were horrified upon hearing this. Hours later, Master He showed the footage to other guild presidents and explained that, according to the images recorded by the Azure Sharp Guild, this was the first time they had confirmed the actual existence of gods. President Liu Yingjin of the YU Guild remarked that although the identity of the god was unknown, judging by the spells cast, they were powerful enough to be considered at the legendary forbidden spell level. President Ark of the Epoch Guild asked Master He, or He Shiyu if he remembered correctly, if he had reported that passing the trial could lead to obtaining recognition and blessings from the gods. He replied that the information inside the secret realm did indeed suggest that, but they had not expected a literal god to appear. President Yu Linghua of the Chuan Shu Guild expressed concern that even magic of forbidden spell level couldn't destroy the evil god, which was troubling news indeed. President Luo Yuning of the Wangshu Guild agreed with Yu Linghua and told them that if the evil god intended to destroy the world, they might have no way to confront it. President Wang Bo of the Illuminati Guild suggested that since passing the trials could lead to obtaining the gods' blessings and recognition, there might be a method among those blessings to deal with evil gods, such as spells of a forbidden spell level. President Zhang Yanchuan of the Blazing Guild responded that it might be worth a try and that they could give it a shot. He Shiyu knew that these presidents had long had their sights set on the trial's secret realm, and it seemed they wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to get him to cooperate with them. So, he told them that he was not against anyone wanting to participate in the trials, but he must warn them that the monsters inside the trial's secret realm are exceptionally strong, and with their current strength, they simply could not pass through. He also mentioned that he feared they may not yet be qualified for the blessing and recognition from the gods. Liu Yingjin, with a smile, turned to someone named Lao Feng and asked what he thought about it. Lao Feng replied, questioning what thoughts he could possibly have, and rhetorically asked if each of them wasn't quite capable on their own. Yingjin tells Lao Feng not to be angry, explaining that he was only called back because something significant had happened. Lao Feng, a former leader of Solitary Shadow, questions what else could be considered a big deal in their eyes, apart from guarding against mutants. He then angrily tells Yingjin that his disciples reported anomalies in Kinyu City, which were initially disregarded, prompting the dispatch of an investigative team. Lao Feng asserts that whether or not the investigation was conducted, it only led to a major catastrophe, and if he hadn't been in Kinyu City to intervene, they would be the ones causing harm to innocent people. Yingjin advises Lao Feng to calm down, noting that he is getting heated again. Yuning recalls hearing that their senior, Lao Feng, had applied for retirement because the toll of using the power of darkness was becoming increasingly severe. She hadn't expected to see him there again. Yingjin then suggests to Lao Feng that he could ask his disciple to show the footage to the mysterious powerhouse in Kinyu City, speculating that with the powerhouse's abilities, they might uncover something significant. Lao Feng angrily questions if Yingjin is really thinking about his disciple at such a time. However, when Yingjin mentions he has 2 boxes of excellent wine to send over and that his disciple's commendation for military achievements is about to be approved, Lao Feng is taken aback and gradually calms down. The fire on his head dissipates, revealing his human form, and he agrees with Yingjin. Meanwhile, in Duan's villa, Ningfeng is in his room, fixated on the system. The system displays a mission titled No Problem, described as just a minor matter. His objective is to reach the second transformation and complete system repair, which makes him notice that the previous mission isn't even completed yet, and there's already a new one. Judging from the title of his mission, he thinks that the system, despite being damaged, doesn't seem to care at all. He then exits his room, still pondering the frightening events of the previous night, and wonders if he made a mistake somewhere. As he enters the lounge, he notices people with Duan and asks if they have guests. Liu Feng asks if the student is named Ning Feng. Ning Feng greets Liu Feng and inquires about his identity. Duan introduces Liu Feng as the former leader of Solitary Shadow who now serves as the director of the Adventurer Management Bureau, and Quang Lan as Liu Feng's disciple and the current leader of Solitary Shadow in that province. Duan then explains that they are seeking help from the mysterious powerhouse. Surprised, Ning Feng asks Liu Feng if he is the Scarlet Flame Grim Reaper. Liu Feng modestly replies that it's just a minor reputation, nothing to boast about. Ning Feng is aware that Liu Feng has countless achievements, having participated in the development of many large-scale mysteries and thwarting numerous evils. Adventurer organizations know him as one of the strongest mutants, and while almost all members of Solitary Shadow keep their identities secret, Liu Feng is an exception because his very presence acts as a formidable deterrent. Ning Feng also knows that in the eyes of young people, Liu Feng undoubtedly ranks among the top 3 idols, so having the chance to meet him and exchange a few words would be bragging material for years to come. Liu Feng then tells him that since it's their first meeting, he hasn't prepared much, but he heard Ning Feng was about to take the college entrance examination, so they brought 5 million crystal coins and 200 bottles of high experience potions, entrusted by the authorities, wishing him all the best in his studies. Ning Feng is amazed, knowing that 5 million crystal coins are quite an impressive sum. He then asks them the reason for their visit. Quang Lan opens a video, explaining that she mainly wishes to garner the mysterious powerhouse's opinion on a video clip, and that now was a good time. Quang Lan shows him the footage from the incident last night, and Ning Feng is horrified when he realizes that he is the evil god the deity was speaking about. Ning Feng wants to assert that he is just an ordinary high school student, a good boy with 5 merits, and questions how he could possibly be an evil god. He then recalls the mission titled No Problem, realizing it was actually a significant issue, and curses it in frustration, wondering if it was intentionally trying to deceive him. He tells himself not to panic and to stay calm because no one yet knows that he is the evil god, and he knows he can't afford to reveal himself. He replies to them that he understands and will send the video to the mysterious powerhouse right away, promising to keep them informed of any updates. Liu Feng thanks him for his help and tells him that they will be back, waiting patiently for good news. He adds that if Ning Feng needs any help later on, he should contact Quang Lan directly. Quang Lan hands him her card, and upon seeing it, Ning Feng remembers that she was the senior sister in charge of reception on the day he changed professions, which makes him realize why he got exposed so quickly. A few minutes later, on the street, Liu Feng and Quang Lan are walking when Liu Feng comments that Ning Feng does indeed seem like the person she described, modest, polite, and composed. He also mentions that the official stance is to spare no expense in persuading Ning Feng to join their team if the opportunity arises. She asks him if he thinks Ning Feng and the mysterious powerhouse are the same person. Liu Feng responds evasively, asking if it matters, and states that since Ning Feng wants them to see him as a student, then that is how they should view him, and it's better for everyone that way. Moreover, giving 5 million crystal coins to a student, regardless of whether they care or not, wouldn't be considered improper in terms of etiquette. If a student becomes a mysterious powerhouse, the norms for how to treat him in the future would be unclear, and no one could say for sure. He also tells her that while the enemy is constantly getting stronger, as Shiyu mentioned, they can only dream of receiving the god's blessing, yet they don't even have the qualifications. Therefore, they should hope that the mysterious powerhouse can become their strongest support. Inside the villa, he sipped his coffee while pondering the proving skill that damaged the system yesterday. He speculated that it might be the god tracking his whereabouts. The god had shattered his absolute defense with a single strike, indicating that the god's strength had also reached the forbidden spell level, making him a formidable threat. He knew his top priority was to complete the 2 missions released by the system, with repairing the system naturally taking precedence, as he still relied on it to shield against the god's detection. He also considered the importance of completing the trial, reasoning that if he couldn't harness the enemy's power for himself, it could pose a significant threat. He then asked Duan if Liu Feng had provided any additional information. Duan confirmed and told him he would sort it out for him right away. Duan reported that the internal structure of the trial realm resembled a tower, divided into many floors, and since it hadn't been fully explored yet, the exact number of floors remained unknown. He added that the monsters inside were exceptionally powerful, far surpassing those in other known secret realms, with the current highest record being the 42nd floor, set and maintained by Hishiyu, the president of the Azure Sharp Guild. Concerned about potentially triggering another forbidden spell set up by the god, which could expose his identity as the evil god, he wondered if it was feasible to delegate the task, since the mission didn't require his presence specifically. He then asked Duin if he had watched the video of Hishiyu clearing the levels. Duin replied that he had. He queried Duin on how many floors he thought he could reach if it were him attempting the trial. Duin estimated that he might reach around 35 floors, aware that Hishiyu is close to being a 5 transformation powerhouse. Surpassing Duin's strength, he acknowledged Duin's loyalty, knowing he'd feel at ease only if one of their own participated in the trial. This made him consider whether he should prepare a special training session for Duin. The next day, in a nondescript building, someone expresses shock as Liu Feng inquires whether the mysterious powerhouse intends to send someone to the Azure Sharp Guild to participate in the trial. Quang Lan confirms that it was Duin's reply, and he has also requested the use of their training room, stating his intention to undergo a period of intensive training. Liu Feng asks if he's correct in understanding that Duin hasn't reached the 5th transformation yet, to which she agrees. Liu Feng smiles and remarks that things were getting interesting, prompting a confused Quang Lan to ask why. He explains that the presidents of the 7 major guilds all attempted the trial realm but failed, including Liu Yingjun, the old fox, who also didn't succeed. Quang Lan is incredulous, knowing Liu to be the strongest in the country, yet he didn't succeed. Liu Feng, now in his Scarlet Flame Grim Reaper persona, exclaims that this is precisely why he is keenly interested in Duin's trial outcome, curious to see how far someone personally guided by the mysterious powerhouse can actually go. Quang Lan's expression turns to shock as she notices her master's excited demeanor, making Liu Feng realize his head was aflame again. She knows that the flame is the cost Liu Feng bears, continually burning his life, making her wonder if there's really no way to alleviate it. An hour later, they arrive at the training room. Zhang Jai excitedly informs them that there are individuals at the 4th and 5th transformation levels present, something Kinyu City has never witnessed before. The lady then mentions that Liu Yingjun of the Yu Guild also wanted to come but was stopped by Liu Feng, while Captain Zhu is visibly stunned by the revelation. He recalls saying before that while others were leveling up by killing monsters, Ningfeng was seemingly idle. He tears up with relief, grateful that he didn't defend Ningfeng back then, or else it could have ended badly. Quang Lan informs Duin that with sufficient information, the training room can simulate various combat environments, but it is only accessible to individuals at the 4th transformation level and above. Duin hands over a USB to Quang Lan while excitedly telling Liu Feng that it's his first time visiting. Liu Feng responds nonchalantly, mentioning that if Duin likes the setup, they have even higher quality configurations available. Once Quang Lan inserts the USB, she notes that the details are incredibly precise, with even the monster's weaknesses clearly marked. What impresses her further is that Liu Yingjun had only reached the 10th floor, and all this information is now accessible. She knows that the secret realm was once invaded by the Realm Lord, so extracting the information from his memories meant that no one could know the minion's weaknesses better than the Realm Lord himself. Liu Feng asks Duin if he would mind if they observed his training session. Duin agrees, inviting them to feel free to observe since he considers it his pleasure to offer guidance. However, Liu Feng gently corrects him, saying that guidance is too kind a term for what is essentially learning, and there's something they're very curious to know. He then asks if the mysterious powerhouse ever mentioned whether the evil god would actually destroy the world, which causes Quang Lan to look at them in shock, seeing them staring intensely at each other. Before that day, Duin had asked him if the evil god really intended to destroy the world. Considering that he was asking this directly of him, the supposed evil god, he thought Duin was quite astute. Since Duin was one of their own, a simple reassurance that it wouldn't happen seemed too dismissive, yet he couldn't divulge too much, leaving him to wonder how best to respond. Back to the present, Duin responds to Liu Feng's inquiry about the same question, revealing that he asked the boss, who answered him in just 8 words. Curious, Liu Feng asks what the boss said, and Duin replies that he said, "As long as he is there, it won't happen." Liu Feng laughs, noting the response as casually dismissive yet dominantly assertive, typical of the boss's style. Quang Lan wonders what kind of powerhouse the boss is to not take even a god seriously, while he, on the side, is proud and thankful for his quick wit. Liu Feng then tells Duin that the next trial in the secret realm is up to him. As they observe from outside the training room, they see a simulation of a collapsed tower with Duin being thrown to the ground. Facing demons that leap to attack him, Duin screams and counters with his power. Liu Feng asks if Duin wants to come out and take a break, but Duin declines, saying it's okay and that he'll take a quick rest and then try a few more times. He thinks to himself that this opportunity Ningfeng gave him is one he cannot let go to waste. Guanglan notes that these monsters had already exceeded the limits of the fourth transformation, and admits that she definitely wouldn't be able to pass the trial herself. Liu Feng recalls that according to Guanglan, Ningfeng had awakened at 18 but took only a few days to complete his first transformation. This makes him wonder if Ningfeng could indeed achieve it. There might be a miracle waiting to happen with Duan. Perhaps the boss can break through the existing combat system, allowing Duan to unleash even greater strength. In that case, it would be comparable to receiving a blessing from the gods. Ningfeng realizes he underestimated the situation because he thought knowing the monster's weaknesses would give him an edge in passing the trial. However, he overlooked that humans have their limits, as do equipment and skills. Even if he knows the monster's weaknesses, it's all in vain if he can't reach them. He also acknowledges that if Duan can't pass the trial, he'll ultimately have to complete it himself. With limited combat experience, his only reliance on forbidden spells poses significant risks if exposed. He then informs Liu Feng and Guanglan that he needs to take his leave because school will resume next week, and he needs to prepare. Liu Feng agrees and tells him that if he needs any assistance, he should not hesitate to let them know. As Ningfeng walks on the street, he contemplates that he must level up as much as possible before school starts again, and that acquiring some powerful skills or equipment to equip Duan would be ideal. Ensuring no one is around, he takes out his flight scroll, knowing it's the best way to move about unnoticed. He activates it, aware that he has asked the Yuancheng Trading Center to help him purchase a badge, which should suffice for the short term. He then proceeds on his journey. Just a few minutes later, he arrives at his destination and equips his armor. He finds the entrance to one of the two wild secret realms Duan mentioned, which is currently not under the authorities' control. However, he notices traces of battles nearby. Curious, he walks inside the realm, deciding to explore further. Meanwhile, deeper inside the realm, someone stepped on a dead man's body. The huge man asked his boss if he had seen the light beam just now, and the boss confirmed it appeared to be a flight scroll. He then speculated whether this was another foolish attempt to wipe them out. The mutants around him laughingly shouted that those people were really courting death. The boss then declared that they should let the humans come because the more there were, the greater the offerings to present to their esteemed demon lord. He proclaimed that thanks to their efforts, their great demon lord had accumulated enough power, and today would mark the day of the demon lord's arrival, a day they had all been eagerly anticipating, prompting cheers of excitement from the crowd. On the other hand, the dead man had a communication device on his shirt that allowed his team outside to hear everything. They worriedly wondered what the mutants meant by the demon lord's arrival and if it signaled a secret realm invasion. The lady then reported to her captain that the mutants had claimed there would be a secret realm invasion today at the mountain. The man responded that the secret realm invasion would likely impact the nearest city first, putting their city of Chang'an in danger. Another team member asked the captain what they should do. The captain responded grimly that the entire 4th squad had been wiped out, and even if they went up there, they wouldn't be able to stop the invasion from happening. Panic set in as the captain realized that the monsters inside the secret realm were formidable, and the city's magic barrier couldn't stop them at all. They simply couldn't hold them off. He then ordered his team to return immediately and inform the authorities to urgently evacuate the populace, emphasizing the need to evacuate as many people as possible. One man asked what about the captain, and the captain replied that without surveillance equipment, they didn't know the exact timing of the secret realm invasion, so he would stay behind and report back to them. The man protested, asking how they could let him go alone, but the captain shouted for them not to waste time and to go quickly. They all ran off with heavy hearts, their eyes closed because they didn't want to leave their captain. But they had no choice. The captain looked up, his expression tense, and muttered, "Why today of all days?" He then called his child, trying to sound calm as he explained that there might be an emergency drill later, but she shouldn't worry and should listen to her mother. His child asked him where he was, and he replied that he was busy working and they would talk later. After hanging up, his phone rang again. It was his child calling back. He answered, and his child asked why he had ended the call when she hadn't finished what she wanted to say. He softened, asking what she wanted to tell him, and she wished him a happy birthday just as a surge of dark power erupted from the secret realm above him. Meanwhile, his team was speeding back to their city, one of them asking if the intense power of darkness was a sign that the secret realm invasion had begun. They all worriedly thought of their captain, left crying alone in the forest. At the secret realm's entrance, the mutant boss shouted about the great power and how the great demon lord would surely grant them more favors. Within the secret realm, he walked until he discovered a book titled Ice Cold Arrow, an extremely potent frost-dark forbidden spell that summons an endless ice calamity, sweeping a cruel chill across the world. He knocked on the ice near him, pleased to find that the experience points from the monsters there were quite generous, as he leveled up to level 37 in one go. Realizing it was time to learn some new skills, he opened his system and decided to learn that one. A moment later, the portal deeper into the realm opened, and the mutants knelt down, welcoming the demon lord. Someone walked in. It was him, absent-mindedly picking his nose, utterly confused. The mutant stared in shock, and as he realized what was happening, he blurted out, asking what the hell was going on. The mutant boss demanded to know where the demon lord was, noting that the demon lord was already trapped inside the ice, cold and still. The boss observed that he didn't recognize them and concluded that he was neither the incarnation of the demon lord nor any guardian. He noted the stranger's unusual attire and wondered how he dared to appear there alone. Remembering the earlier use of a flight scroll, the boss speculated that he might just be an opportunist, seeking to pledge loyalty to the demon lord but frightened away by the powerful darkness. The boss asked him if he was there to pledge loyalty to the demon lord, to which he flatly replied no. Persisting, the boss demanded to know his purpose there, and he retorted that it was none of his business, annoying the boss, who then boastfully introduced himself as Gurong, a class-wanted criminal responsible for over 200 deaths. Unimpressed, he told Gurong that he was annoying. The mutants looked up in horror, confused about the unfolding situation. He decided to demonstrate the power of the forbidden spell he had just learned, fear-probing skill, Sorrow of Abuse. This dark forbidden spell plunged enemies into an illusion, revealing all their weaknesses and inflicting merciless torture based on those revelations. He noticed Gurong's weaknesses, a hidden shoulder injury caused by a long-term incorrect skill combination, which decreased Gurong's strength and agility by 5% and reduced his skill effectiveness by 20%. Amazed at the detail in which the weaknesses were listed, he realized that in front of this skill, all enemy weaknesses would be exposed. When Gurong noticed his intense gaze, he challenged him to either fight or back off. Gurong, infuriated, shouted that he was courting death. His members joined in the chant to kill him, but suddenly they all fell silent, their expressions shifting to fear as they noticed that their surroundings had darkened ominously. They then saw an evil entity smiling down at them from above before it launched an attack on Gurong's injured shoulder. In the illusion, he realized he could manipulate the environment to repeatedly exploit the trapped enemy's vulnerabilities, much like a demon toying with helpless prey, thus the name, Sorrow of Abuse. He thought, despite the torturous nature of the skill, being able to discern weaknesses could be quite advantageous for exploiting them. A moment later, the captain reported back to his team, noting that the situation was indeed strange. Despite the elapsed time, there had been no signs of secret realm invasions on the mountain, and he decided it was best to go up and take a look himself. His team tried to object, but the captain insisted that it didn't matter if there was truly an unexpected situation. He probably wouldn't be able to escape it anyway. Dying at the foot of the mountain or at the top was just a matter of taking a few more steps. When the captain reached the secret realm, he was stunned to find the class-wanted criminal, Gurong, known as the Blade of Embers, along with his subordinates, completely wiped out. The lady on his team expressed disbelief, noting that 4 adventure teams had been sacrificed in the hunt for Gurong, but they ended up like this. Another team member asked about the situation inside the secret realm. The captain replied that it seemed the secret realms had been sealed off by a massive ice storm, with not a single living monster inside. The man inquired about the boss of the secret realm, and the captain said he was going to check it out. He was shocked to see that the boss was also frozen and announced to his team that he was going to make sure it was dead because no one would have expected it to collapse with just one stab. His team asked if it was truly dead, and he replied that no items were dropped and no experience points were given, so it must be dead. The man questioned whether the day's secret realm invasion would still occur even with the boss dead, but the captain did not respond as he was busily poking the ice, trapping the demon lord with a stick to verify its death. Later, in Duin's villa, he asks Duin if he is still in the training room and tells him to come back and rest for a while. Duin, frustrated, tells him that he was stuck on the 45th level because his abilities were insufficient, and he was ashamed to have let him down. However, he smiles and reassures Duin that it is alright and that he should take a few days off. He also tells Duin that, previously, his main goal was for him to understand the situation of the trial secret realm. Next week, he will arrange special demon training for him. Duin, crying with happiness, responds that he is relieved to know he hasn't given up on him. He replies, of course not. Duin then asks what he wants to eat tonight, offering to order it right away. He walks away, singing in happiness. A moment later, while on his phone, he tells Duin that they should play some games during the break. Just then, he receives a message from Lao Feng. Feng asks if he wants to rank up and tells him to count him in, boasting that he is a professional at Tank Thief 6. He wonders if it is really Lao Feng and if Feng's account has been hacked. But Lao sends a voice message confirming it's really him and asks if they can duo up. He thinks that Feng may seem serious on the surface, but no one would have thought that Lao has such a gaming hobby. Feng is full of surprises in conversation. A moment later, they win the game, and he sends a voice message to Feng, expressing his surprise at Feng's gaming skills. Feng responds that he used to always play with his grandson, but now his grandson is busy preparing for college entrance exams, so he doesn't play much anymore. He adds that he and his grandson are still the same age. He tells Feng that next time, if they have a chance, they should trio up. To which Feng replies that it sounds perfect and is arranged. He knows that Lao Feng is an upright man and holds a high official status, making him think that if he establishes a good relationship with Feng, it could make things a lot easier for him in the future. Feng then changes the topic and tells him that 3 top universities are planning to organize a supernova training camp to select outstanding students. Those who perform well during the camp will be exempted from entrance exams and will receive generous resources for further development. Feng asks if he would like to participate in the camp because he has 2 slots available. Initially, he thought having a forbidden spell meant he didn't need to worry about going to college. However, he realizes that without any combat experience, he would be at a significant disadvantage if he had to face off against the so-called gods in the future. Excitedly, he replies to Feng that he'd like to go. Feng assures him that he'll keep both slots for him and mentions that if he knows someone who would like to join, they can apply together. He thanks Feng for the opportunity. Feng then looks at his grandson's picture on the table, telling him that Ning Feng and he have a lot in common and might even become good friends. The next day, in Kinyu City 7th Middle School, in Class 2, Grade 3 room, a student tells her friends that this year, not only the top universities but even regular ones have increased the requirements for combat majors. She mentions that many college students couldn't meet the assessment criteria for graduating and had to switch to non-combat majors. A boy points at Ning Feng, who is sleeping in the last corner of the room, and asks if being a 3-star awakened is no different from being a useless 1-star or 2-star awakened. The girl replies that it's hard to accept. The speaker in the room then makes a noise, signaling the start of class. Kaiwai announces that they have a new student joining their class and encourages everyone to extend a warm welcome and get along well with them. Everyone is in a daze, their mouths open, as they see the new student. Chang Mukyu shyly introduces herself to the class. Ning Feng is surprised, wondering if this is the same Mukyu who caused trouble in the secret realm last time. The students panic upon realizing that it is indeed Mukyu, the 4th ranked on the national supernova list. They question why Mukyu, who was attending a top high school in a big city, would come to a small place like theirs. Mukyu then asks Kaiwai if she can sit next to Ning Feng, to which Kaiwai hesitantly agrees. Mukyu walks to the chair next to him, and Ning Feng notices his male classmate glaring at him in anger, wondering why all the beauties like Ning Feng. Ning Feng just looks at Mukyu silently sitting next to him. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, Principal Zhang questions Principal Feng of Kinyu City 7 Middle School about the means he used to lure Chang Mukyu away from their school. Feng tells Zhang to calm down and insists that he knows nothing about it. Principal Zhang retorts that Mukyu not only left but also took away a spot in the training camp, and asks if Feng understands how that could affect their enrollment rate. Feng knows that this year's training camp only has 4 spots for the entire province, and 2 of them are secured by their school. Including Mukyu would give them an extra spot. Feng realizes why Principal Zhang made the effort to come and question him. Things are starting to make sense. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door and Principal Feng asks the person outside to come in. The assistant reports to Feng that someone wants to see him and couldn't reach him on his phone. Principal Feng asks who it is and tells the assistant that he is in a meeting with Principal Zhang, so his phone is on silent. Both principals are shocked when the assistant responds that it is Lao Feng from the Adventure Management Bureau. They immediately meet Lao Feng, and Principal Feng shakes Feng's hand to welcome him. Both principals know that Lao Feng is a big shot, usually seen only on television. Feng then introduces his grandson Feng Rui, and Rui greets the principals. Principal Feng asks Feng how he can assist him, and Feng replies that there are 2 main matters he'd like to discuss. First, his grandson intends to transfer to their school to study, which shocks both principals. Principal Feng remembers that Rui is ranked 12th on the national supernova list, and that his profession is that of a dark knight, the bloodborne knight. He heard that Rui was concerned about losing control over the power of darkness, so Rui held back his full strength. Otherwise, Rui might have easily made it into the top 5. Principal Zhang looks at Principal Feng, wondering why Lao Feng's grandson chose such an obscure school, and realizes that this means Principal Feng's school suddenly gained an extra spot because everyone on the national supernova list has a spot in the training camp. Lao Feng then tells Principal Feng that the second matter is that their bureau has 2 spots in the training camp, and they intend to allocate them to students from his school. This amazes Principal Feng, while Principal Zhang wonders why they chose them when their province is lagging behind and there are only 3 or 4 spots in total. Principal Zhang questions what is so special about that school that attracts all of them. Principal Feng then teasingly apologizes to Jiang, saying that, as he can see, he is quite busy so he won't keep him any longer. Principal Feng then orders his assistant to see Principal Jiang off. A moment later, Feng and Rui are seated inside the principal's office when Principal Feng asks Feng if he means those 2 spots are to be allocated to Ning Feng from class 2 of grade 3, and if Ning Feng can still go to the training camp since he remembers Ning Feng just awakened not long ago. Feng tells Principal Feng that it was the bureau's arrangement, so he doesn't need to ask too many questions. Principal Feng agrees immediately, assuring Feng that they will fully cooperate. Principal Feng knows that the Adventurer Management Bureau is a specialized entity tasked with overseeing adventurers, operating independently from the 7 great guilds. With their considerable authority and Feng's influence, those who receive their support have boundless opportunities ahead, making Principal Feng wonder how Ning Feng got involved. Later, in Class 2, Grade 3 room, Ning Feng sits silently, confused, with Miuku at his side and Rui behind him. Wang Yu, Zhu Ting, and Zhu Jiangshu are also around him, prompting Ning Feng to ask how they ended up transferring to his class. Zhu Ting laughingly responds that they moved closer to the boss. She explains that the school reached out to Zhao Cheng, but he decided to pass, so the spot came to her. Being the boss he is, Ning Feng gave another spot to Jiangshu, meaning everyone representing the school at the training camp that year is right there. On his side are Miuku and Yu glaring at each other, while Jiangshu tells Rui that he has heard about him before. Rui laughingly responds that there is no need to be polite, and they should take care of him and everyone in the future. Miuku realizes that she is not the only one attracted to Ning Feng's influence, which could be troublesome for her. She thinks she needs to work twice as hard to earn the boss's respect. Miuku then blushes, remembering that she had prepared a gift for Ning Feng and decides to find an opportunity to give it to him. Meanwhile, their classmates stare at them, wondering why Ning Feng has such a good relationship with that group of supernovas. They think that even if they exclude Ning Feng, the lineup would still be quite impressive even among high schools nationwide. Ning Feng smiles, noticing that it suddenly got lively around him. He wonders what the deal is with Zhao Cheng abstaining and if anyone is paying attention to Zhao Cheng's disappearance. Meanwhile, in Zhao Cheng's home, a man sits silently on the couch when his assistant reports that there is still no news about their young master, Zhao Cheng, and asks if they shouldn't report it to the police. The man responds that he has already assigned a capable person to help with the investigation, and that there should be news soon, so they should wait a bit longer. He then asks his assistant how things are going at school. The assistant replies that he has requested an extended leave for Zhao Cheng, saying that Zhao Cheng needs to attend additional special training. The principal thought it was a shame to give up Zhao Cheng's spot in the training camp but didn't ask many questions. The man praises his secretary and tells him that he'll check on little Cheng's room, instructing not to disturb him unless it's important, which the secretary acknowledges. The man then walks upstairs and pushes open the door to Zhao Cheng's room. He walks inside and approaches the wall with Zhao Cheng's pictures. The man touches a scenic picture, causing the wall to split open, revealing another room behind it. He seriously walks inside and heads to the center where a stone with blood is situated. Meanwhile, at school, Rui takes out something and gives it to Ning Feng, telling him that the skill book is loot he got some time ago and that Ning Feng should take a look to see if it is useful for him. Ning Feng sees that it is a summon water elemental skill book, knowing that a summoner is an extremely rare profession and that skill books of this type are very valuable. Miuku then gives him a gift too, thinking that Rui was stealing the gift-giving spotlight. Ning Feng sees that it is a battle mage skill book, understanding that the battle mage is also an extremely rare profession, and books on such skills are equally rare. Ning Feng knows that he can't learn those 2 skill books for the time being. Before the start of the school year, he went to the second wild secret realm to level up but couldn't enter it. The system indicated that to enter the secret realm, he needed a team of 5 people to initiate the challenge. He thinks that because he didn't have enough information at the time, he ended up making a fruitless trip and couldn't unlock any new skill slots. However, those 2 skill books really pique his interest, and he knows he needs to win over more people as sources of information in the future. He thanks them for their kindness but tells them that he is afraid he doesn't have anything to offer in return. He then took out 2 items and gave them 40 bottles of high-level experience points. Miuku remembered hearing that high-level bottles are an exclusive treasure of the Azure Guild, reserved for their elite members. Rui knows that these bottles are highly valued at the auction house and rarely available, yet Ning Feng just handed out 40 bottles like it was nothing, making both of them think that they must hold on to Ning Feng's favor very tightly. Yu then tells him that she has a gift for him too, prompting him to tell Yu that it is enough and asks her what the matter is. She tells him that Wai made a new potion and asked her to give it to him. She then hands over the potion, and he is amazed to see it. Later, in Duan's villa, Duan greets him and remarks that he is back early today. He responds that all the students in the training camp can set their own schedules, and since there wasn't much happening at school, he left early. Duan recalls that he mentioned the demon's special training for him that week. But until today, there hasn't been any mention of it again, making Doon wonder if they had forgotten. But then he gives the potion to Doon, telling him that it is for him. Doon asks what it is, and he replies that it is a new potion made by Zhu Wei, named Revitalizing Elixir, and it can heal long-standing internal injuries. He then tells Doon that he should drink a bottle first and then start the demon's special training. Doon excitedly tells him that he really appreciates it and thanks him for going through the trouble, but he just replies that it was no trouble at all. Doon then drinks the potion. He then asks Doon how he is feeling, and Doon replies that he feels warm all over, and the places that used to feel uncomfortable are much more relaxed now. He smiles, knowing that it is truly an excellent potion because, last time, he was hit by a forbidden spell and was left with some hidden injuries, but after drinking one bottle, he almost fully recovered. He then tells Doon that next is the demon's training time and that he shouldn't be nervous and should just follow his instructions, to which Doon respectfully replies that he understands. He warns Doon that anytime he feels like he can't hold on, he should make sure to tell him right away. This surprises Doon, but he stares back with full confidence. Doon then stares into his eyes with sweat dripping down his face, and he activates his Sorrow of Abuse skill, which makes him see Doon's weaknesses. He notices that Doon's lung injury is recovering, making him wonder if it is the effect of the nourishing potion. He then tells Doon that he'll start by pointing out his weaknesses and then conduct targeted training, to which Doon agrees. He tells Doon that, first, the skill Primordial Force Overload isn't suitable for him because it causes damage to his lungs. Secondly, his skill combinations are incorrect. Hook Star Grasping the Moon and Falling Star Attack cannot be smoothly connected, yet it seems to be his habitual combo. He continues to point out everything to Doon, making Doon think that he is really sharp-eyed and can see through his problems at a glance. After pointing out Doon's weaknesses, he tells Doon that they should begin the special training, and Doon immediately dresses up in response. Doon positions himself when a sharp object rushes to attack him, but when he tries to counter, it appears behind him. When he looks back, it is too late, and the sharp object hits him in the stomach. Doon kneels on the ground, and he asks if Doon can still handle it. Doon responds that he can. He is glad to have those guinea pigs because he has become familiar with the usage of that skill, preventing any harm to Doon's consciousness. He thinks that although pain is inevitable, the results don't seem bad. Doon then stands up, thinking that in this world, he is probably the only one who can help him become stronger, so he won't let him down. Doon, full of confidence, then shouts for him to come again. Half a month later, in the training ground, a demon rushed to attack. Doon calmly waited for it to get closer. The demon launched its sharp claw at Doon, but fortunately, Doon jumped away in time and landed behind it while drawing his dagger. Doon then stabbed the demon from behind, causing it to scream in pain and die instantly. Wiping the blood from his face, Doon shouted that he was ready for the next level. However, Quang Lan, who was surprised by Doon, replied that there was no next level and that the monster data he submitted was all they had. Doon caught his breath upon hearing this and lay down on the ground, exhausted. Doon then cried with happiness, asking Ning Feng if he had succeeded. Feng knows that to train a 4th transformation adventurer to that level in just half a month is truly a miracle, and their Adventurer Management Bureau must definitely build a good relationship with that mysterious powerhouse. Feng then laughs and realizes that his head is on fire again with excitement. Quang Lan saw it and worried about Feng's health, but Feng told her not to worry because, as a mutant, making it to his age is already a stroke of luck. She knows that the fact that Feng enrolled his grandson in school in Kinyu City means he has already had thoughts of passing on his legacy. She asks Feng if there is any way to ease the price of the power of darkness, but Feng keeps his silence and tells her that they should talk about it later because he needs to take Doon to participate in the trial secret realm first. Later, in the Azure Sharp Guild, the 7 great guilds were waiting when Feng and Doon arrived. Yingjin greeted Doon, introduced himself from the Waifu Guild, and told him that those present were the presidents of the 7 great guilds. Doon noticed that these presidents were all at the 5th transformation or close to it. He remembered that in the past, even the master couldn't get them to come out together, making him think that the revelation of the gods had indeed unsettled them. In the face of the gods, only his boss, Ning Feng, could maintain their composure, which is why Ning Feng deserves to be the boss. Shiyu thought that he had just reached the 5th transformation, making him wonder why they should make a grand show of welcoming someone at the 4th transformation level. He was pissed that Lao Feng was playing mysterious, refusing to tell them anything, while the sly old foxes tried to butter him up with favors from his secret realm, only to come there and curry favor, which he found shameless. They then headed to Shiyu's realm where the gods could be seen. Shiyu told Doon that everyone wanted to admire his strength and hoped he could grant them that chance, allowing them to live stream through the formation in the secret realm. Doon replied that it was fine with him and said something to Shiyu in exchange. A moment later, a tripod with a cell phone was set up, and the 7 great guild presidents were looking at the camera with sweat on their brows, wondering if the mysterious powerhouse was really on the phone and if they should seize the opportunity to make an appearance and get acquainted. However, they all knew that if they ended up angering the powerhouse, the consequences could be dire. Meanwhile, in Duan's villa, Ningfeng was sitting on the couch eating chips and watching television when he heard his phone, making him realize that the trial had started. He saw that Duan's speed was quite fast. Yingjin couldn't believe that Duan was incredibly skilled and moving at a speed several times faster than his own. Shiyu stutteringly asked if Duan was truly only at the 4th transformation level. On the other hand, Duan easily cleared the 30th floor, 40th floor, and 50th floor, which they all witnessed. Shiyu, in shock, shouted that Duan had already surpassed the number of floors Yingjin had cleared. With incredible speed, Duan faced the boss of the dungeon. Duan calmly confronted it and eventually killed it without much effort. Duan then passed the trial, leaving the presidents of the 7 great guilds in disbelief that he had actually succeeded. Duan was then surprised when he saw a bright light appear above him, and the system showed that he had obtained the blessing and recognition of the god's first clearance reward. The reward was God's forbidden spell, which stunned everyone in disbelief and surprise. Shiyu was pissed, realizing that the blessing and recognition of the gods were first clearance rewards, and wondered if it meant that those who passed the trial later wouldn't have the chance to obtain it. Shiyu cussed under his breath, thinking that it was his secret realm, so the first clearance reward should rightfully be his. On the other hand, the system scanned Duan, and Duan was surprised when it indicated that his adventurer profession was not perfect enough to learn the forbidden spell. Yingjin asked what it meant, and Ningfeng, who was watching, remembered that according to the Realm Lord's memory, it once showed that the profession in their world had not yet reached its optimal form. This made them wonder if it meant there was no chance of getting a reward. The system then showed Duan that the reward had been adjusted to a divine emblem, making Duan confused. The system explained to Duan that his profession belongs to the strength category blessed by the 12 main gods as the true Holy Spirit, and he has 3 different career paths to choose from for advancement. Duan clicked the choices, and the system displayed the first option, Sword Saint of Martial Spirit, a powerful warrior who controls the sword with Kai, is decisive in battles, and often exhibits extraordinary combat prowess when facing strong opponents. The second option is Supreme Fighting Saint, who never relies on external objects, wholeheartedly explores the limits of one's own combat abilities, and delivers every punch and kick with formidable power. The last option is Martial Soldier Immortal, proficient in using various weapons to defeat opponents and able to observe and comprehend enemy skills during battle, which also falls under the strength category. Duan thought that since his weapon is a short sword, he should choose the path of Sword Saint of Martial Spirit. Suddenly, an emblem appeared, and the system showed Duan that he had obtained the Condensed Kai emblem, a consumable of orange quality that permanently boosts strength and attribute by 4 and true Kai recovery speed by 80%. The system explained to him that the divine emblem is condensed from divine power, containing the fundamental rules of the universe within it, and he shouldn't be afraid but just focus on absorbing it. Yanchuan pointed above them and shouted for everyone to look. They all followed his gaze and saw the sky releasing a bright light, making them wonder what was going on. The system then showed Duan that the Trial of the Gods, the Ruins of Laurel City, was complete, world level +1, and its divine emblem drop rate increased from 0% to 1%. The same system message was shown to the people in the city, and they started to record it because it had just appeared out of nowhere. Meanwhile, in Duan's villa, Ningfeng is staring outside, looking at the system notification showing that his mission, the Trial of the Gods, required him to pass the trial's secret realm and utilize its power for himself. The notification then changed to completed. The presidents of the 7 great guilds panicked when they saw it and heard that people from other places had also seen the message, meaning it was a worldwide announcement. Duan then emerged from the dungeon and headed to the guild presidents waiting for him. Yingjin noticed that Duan's strength exceeded the limitations of a mere 4th transformation and guessed that the power system of the whole world would be overturned because of Duan's existence. Yingjin then asked Duan if he would be interested in joining their Waifu guild. And other guild presidents also invited Duan to join them. However, Duan replied that he was not considering joining any guilds at the moment. Later, Duan returned to his villa and, crying, told Ningfeng that he made it and didn't disappoint him. Ningfeng laughingly praised Duan, telling him that his own efforts played a significant role too. He then mentioned that he couldn't see clearly on his phone at that time and began drawing something. After showing it to Duan, he asked if this was what the divine emblem he was talking about looked like. Duan replied yes and noted that except for different patterns, they all looked the same in shape. He asked Ningfeng if he also knew about those emblems. Ningfeng replied yes and told Duan that he got one when he was doing dungeons before and gave it to Wang Yu, causing a moment of silence between them. Duan thought that Ningfeng casually gives away divine artifacts and realized that his efforts were still far from enough. He remembered that the divine insignia is formed by the condensation of divine power, making him wonder if, because Ning Feng also has divine power, he could produce emblems in the ordinary secret realm. He knew that, although he didn't want to admit it, the evil god was also a god, and there was another thing that bothered him. He then wondered if he might be facing threats from all 12 main gods. Duan explains that in order to obtain the divine emblem, the 7 major guilds have already started taking action, searching for more secret trial realms. He believes it won't be long before all the guilds join in. He knows Duan completed the trial and the system recognized it as a mission completed, indicating that as long as he can control the person who clears the trial, he can utilize that power for himself. However, he wonders what will happen if the person who completes the trial is his enemy. He realizes that the divine emblem is a minor issue compared to the bigger concern. After passing through the trial realm, one might learn a forbidden spell. If a forbidden spell falls into the hands of his enemy, it will definitely pose a threat to him. Additionally, if his existence is exposed to the gods, it will cause even greater trouble. He wonders if there is any way to ensure that those who complete the trial are all his own people, but it seems very difficult to achieve. Duan then tells him there is actually one more thing, but he is not sure if what he did was right. Curious, he asks Duan what it was. Duan replies that during the time in the Azure Sharp Guild, Shiyu told him it was a bit embarrassing to mention. But according to their contract, the rewards Duan obtained from the secret trial realm needed to be returned to their guild. Duan apologizes to Shiyu, explaining that he has already absorbed the divine emblem, but the remaining items are still available. He hands them over to Shiyu. Shiyu shouts at Duan, demanding that he leave the divine emblem with him or else he won't be leaving that place. However, Shiyu just wishes he could say that because he can't. Meanwhile, the guild presidents are amazed to see the orange set pieces, high-grade gems, and the recipe for the potion of forgetfulness. Shiyu knows that the potion of forgetfulness can erase a specified skill, making the skill slot available again. Since leveling up is difficult and skill slots are extremely valuable, a person's skill choices determine their future. This means having that potion equates to having more opportunities for choice. Shiyu then smiles, thinking that just like the high-grade experience potion, this elixir could change the world. If they monopolize these 2 potions, their Azure Sharp Guild would surely attract more strong individuals to join, and their strength would quickly surpass that of the other official guilds. However, the only problem is to keep Duan quiet so he doesn't leak the recipe. Shiyu then tells Duan that according to their contract, he should ensure the confidentiality of the potion recipe and not disclose it to others. Duan replies that he has seen that recipe before from his boss, and it was exactly the same, which shocks Shiyu and the others. Duan explains that even if he doesn't reveal it, his boss will still be able to make that potion. Shiyu responds that they have investigated before, and the rewards for the first completion of the secret trial realm are unique and have never been recorded before. He says the mysterious powerhouse had already obtained that potion recipe. Shiyu then asks Duan if there is any evidence, but Duan remains silent, making Shiyu smile. He thinks Duan shouldn't believe he could pressure him with the mysterious powerhouse, as no one could take away what belongs to him. Duan then replies that he is not qualified to prove anything for his boss, but if they are talking about evidence, his boss also knows the formula for their high-grade experience potion and has already brewed it. This stuns Shiyu, who asks how it is possible. The other guild presidents panic when they realize that the mysterious powerhouse actually knows what is inside the secret trial realm. They ask if Duan is so skilled that he might have used those potions long ago. Then, Yingjin sees Feng smiling on the side and asks Feng what he is laughing at. Feng replies that he remembered something joyful. Yingjin asks Feng what joyful thing, but Feng just tells Yingjin that it is none of his business, making Yingjin angry and call Feng an old bastard, but Feng just smiles teasingly. Feng then figures out that it is no wonder Rui mentioned that Ning Feng casually gave away 40 bottles of experience potions because he didn't take them seriously at all. It seems that transferring Rui to another school was a very wise decision. Duan then tells them that if there is nothing else, he'll leave first, and Feng tells Duan that he'll accompany him back. They then walk away, leaving the guild president staring at them blankly. Feng then asks Duan if he can inquire if the mysterious powerhouse has any other potions available. He tells Duan that his body has been tainted by the power of darkness and is deteriorating day by day, but he still wants to live a few more years to spend more time with his grandson. Duan tells Feng that he can inquire for him, and Feng respectfully thanks Duan for it. Duan then apologizes to Ning Feng because he shouldn't have made decisions on his own. But Ning Feng tells Duan that he did nothing wrong, so there is no need for him to apologize. He wanted to help Feng if he could, but he is unsure if the nourishing potion would have any effect on Feng. He then ordered Duan to find some time to take a few bottles of the nourishing potion to Feng and let him try them out, to which Duan replied, "Okay." Later, Duan arrives at Feng's building and asks Quanglan if Feng is there. Quanglan replies that Feng seems to have an important meeting, so he went back to the bureau. Duan tells her that he has some potions meant for Feng. Quanglan tells him that he can leave them there and she'll pass them along to Feng later. A moment later, Quanglan rings the doorbell at Lao Feng's apartment door, but no one answers. She wonders if Rui isn't home and where he would go, being unfamiliar with Kinyu City. She walks away, deciding to come back tomorrow, without noticing the dark power hissing and emanating from Rui's door. Inside the room, Rui is kneeling on the ground, trembling as darkness pours out of his body. A demon voice asks Rui if he wants to save his grandfather, promising help if Rui submits to him. Rui replies that he is Feng's grandson and will never betray humanity by making a pact with the demon. The demon tells Rui that humans are fragile creatures, always entangling themselves in strange rules, and challenges him to see how long he can maintain his stubborn attitude. The demon also warns that when his grandfather dies in front of him, Rui may not be able to speak so bravely. The next day, in the school playground, Rui is sitting silently on the stairs, deep in thought. Ningfeng approaches and asks Rui if he is feeling down. He then asks Rui if he wants to play a couple of games to lift his mood. But Rui apologizes, explaining that his grandfather doesn't allow him to play games at school. Ningfeng tells Rui that when Feng comes back, they can team up for some rounds, and that Feng is really good at it, making him genuinely amazed. Rui sadly tells him that his grandfather learned to play games just for him because when he was a child, his parents were killed while on a mission. It was a huge blow to him, and he became very withdrawn, locking himself in his room all the time. His grandfather didn't know how to comfort him, but he remembered that he used to love playing competitive games, so he secretly learned how to play them himself. During Rui's darkest times, his grandfather was always there for him, helping him come out of his shell, for which Rui was very grateful. Rui then apologized to Ningfeng for suddenly bringing up personal matters, assuring him that he didn't mean to bore him. Meanwhile, in the meeting room, Feng was listening to a reporter introduce Penghe, a third transformation 4-star professional. The reporter informed everyone that 8 years ago, Peng was arrested for maliciously injuring someone in a secret realm and sentenced to 15 years in prison. But 6 years ago, Peng mysteriously disappeared from prison. The reporter then introduced them to a man named Gu Ying, also a third transformation 4-star professional and a monitored mutant, who mysteriously disappeared from his home 5 years ago. A few days ago, these two men suddenly appeared in Peng's hometown, Xingyuan City, and brutally murdered 2 adventurers and their families, leaving no survivors. Feng's secretary tells him that the 2 adventurers who were killed were part of the team that captured Peng back then, and Peng's motive seems to be revenge. However, one of the men notes that the files state those 2 adventurers were 4th transformation experts, raising the question of how they could be defeated by 2 3rd transformation individuals and watch helplessly as their families were slaughtered without any resistance. Another man mentions that one of the adventurers' home security cameras recorded the fight. They then play the video where Ying is facing one of the adventurers. The adventurer tries to slash Ying's head, but Ying avoids it easily, launches a small sharp object, and stabs it into the adventurer, shocking Feng and everyone in the meeting room. They then see how Ying brutally slashes the adventurer, who is bleeding and screaming in pain. Feng's secretary notices that Ying clearly possesses power surpassing the 5th transformation level. He tells them that in a head-to-head fight, he might not be able to defeat Ying either and asks what exactly those men experienced during their disappearance for a 3rd transformation to suddenly surpass the 5th transformation. Meanwhile, in Zhao Cheng's home, a man was waiting inside, sweating as the door opened and Ying and Peng walked into the room. Zhao Cheng's father tells them that they worked hard and asks if they found anything. Peng replies that they haven't found his son's whereabouts, but while searching, he felt an extremely powerful presence of dark energy. Cheng's father asks what this means. Peng explains that, as he knows, lower-level favored ones can only use the power of darkness with the Demon Lord's blessing. For example, the guy who recently died in Kinyu City was just a pawn of a certain Demon Lord. However, true favored ones like them are personally summoned and trained by the Demon Lord, meaning they lose contact with the outside world and train in a secret realm for a long time. Peng then tells him that Zhao Cheng's situation is somewhat similar to theirs before, so he suspects Zhao Cheng might have caught the attention of a Demon Lord and been given the chance to train in the secret realm. Cheng's father mentions that he knows Cheng has been performing some kind of ritual and asks if what they are saying is related to that ritual. Peng replies that he isn't sure, but he examined the dark room Cheng uses for the ritual, and the setup was correct. As long as he continues the sacrifices, with his potential, he should attract the favor of a Demon Lord. Excitedly, Cheng's father exclaims that he knew it would be like this and arrogantly asks what those bastards from the Wang group will do to compete with him in the future. Peng then hands him a card and asks if he could arrange a car to take them to a specific location. Cheng's father looks at the card and asks if they are looking for someone. to which they reply that they are going to visit a future student. Meanwhile, Rui remembers someone telling his grandfather Feng that his son and daughter-in-law sacrificed their lives to seal the uncontrolled entrance to the secret realm. Thanks to them, the entire city avoided disaster. On behalf of all the citizens, they extended their sincere gratitude and heartfelt condolences. Rui was silently staring at the night sky when someone rang the doorbell. He approached the door and asked who it was. When he opened it, he saw Ying and Peng smiling at him. He asked them who they were looking for, but Peng just asked him if he was Rui, to which he replied yes. Peng then pointed inside his room and told him that they should go in and talk. Rui, sensing their dangerous aura, asked them again who they were. Peng told him that they were there to check in on him for their master, and that he would have to call them senior brothers from now on. Surprised, Rui asked who their master was, to which Peng replied that he should have met their master last night. At that moment, Rui saw a demon behind them. He immediately activated his bloodborne knight, but Peng grabbed his face and slammed him hard against the wall, causing it to crumble. Peng asked how he could attack his senior brother, calling it incredibly rude. Rui tried to push Peng's hand away from his face while calling them bastards, but Peng tightened his grip and punched him in the stomach, making Rui cough up blood and scream in pain. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 6 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.